Welcome to the Leveling Friends Group 2024 Game of the Year episode presented by Short Game Long Talk. I'm Eric. I'm from Short Game Long Talk. You guys are listening to this on my feed, so I'm going to assume you know who I am. But I am joined by two incredible people. I will start with Jordan from Cognitive Clips. Please introduce yourself a little bit, Jordan.
Hi, yes, I'm Jordan. My channel is Cognitive Clips, where I do mostly video essay style content, occasionally some gameplay videos as well. But that's where I live over on YouTube and some threads and Instagram content as well.
Yes, lots of memes over there.
Just a couple here and there.
He makes very high quality videos and then posts like the shittiest memes. So it's a very good balanced combo. He's a very deep and complicated man.
I contain multitudes. Okay.
Yes, multitudes. Exactly. But then we're also joined by another familiar face, which is Chris from the Nerd Lys.
Hey, everybody. You've heard my voice before on here. I'm Chris from the Nerd Lys. I do variety gaming, mostly indie horror and stuff like that. I do content on YouTube as well, some vlogging and all that stuff. And I do cosplay photography as well. But yeah, you'll find me all there.
Yes. At this point,
He excels at all the above.
Yes, literally. Everything. Your photos, I know. I was like looking through your recent trip to Japan, and your photos made me want to go there so bad because I was like,
oh man, it's such a beautiful place to be, and especially during that week, it was. It felt very good to be there.
I'm sure we were all very jealous of you. Yeah, why? Why would there be any problem?
No,
early November.
Nothing happened in early November.
Yes.
You guys don't have to think about anything. We're just talking about games.
Just games. Exactly. No overthrowing government, no abusing of power that will be mentioned at all during any of these games that we're going to talk about. That wasn't a theme of 2024. But to go over the format a little bit, we're going to spend about 3 minutes talking about our 5 games. We also have 3 minutes each on all of our 5 games. We also have a couple games we're going to discuss prior that kind of missed the cut. And then sprinkled in between our 4th and 3rd pick, we're going to go over some submissions that were submitted to our Discord, the LFG Discord. So some users are going to get their stuff read out loud. And then before we wrap up with our number 1, we're going to read our honorable mentions, which could be a game that came out this year that maybe you didn't finish, you didn't feel like putting it on the list, but mostly it might just be a game that you played from previous years that you really, really enjoyed that would have made your list otherwise. Am I missing anything, guys?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I think you covered.
All right, sweet. So we're going in alphabetical order to make things easier. And so that means, Chris, would you like to go over some games that missed the cut?
Yeah, so I had 3 in mind. I have plenty because I obviously play a lot of very small indie games and that sort of thing. But 3 that mainly came to mind. And I was struggling to not put in this one, and I'll just mention it by name, Duck Detective, the Secret Salami, which was hilarious. Very cute little game. Anyway, but the 3 that I would mainly put in is The Invincible, for one, which is kind of a walking sim about a person who gets lost on a planet. They can't remember what their mission was and why they're there. It was very beautifully made, but it kind of misses the cut because it is a walking sim. There's not a lot of stuff to do. It gets a little bit slow here and there with some of the story, but I thought it was very interesting. It's very decision based as well. But it missed the cut just a little bit because the gameplay wasn't like so out of the ordinary that I'd make it up there. I forget how much time I get.
You got 3 games. You got 3 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So you're good.
So next game, Galaxy Burger, which is a game one of my mods turned me on to, and I played with them. It is a cooking simulator, basically, kind of like Overcooked, but it doesn't have a time limit. So it can be a very relaxing game to just sit there and play. You're just cooking burgers for aliens, and some of them are cat robot hybrids, which is pretty funny. Nice. But you literally just learn the menu, learn how to cook certain burgers. You have sides that you can make, and then as you get better at learning recipes and all that stuff, you unlock other planets and other restaurants. It's a very chill version of something like Overcooked and Played Up, which I think is a missing part of what they can do, because sometimes you just want to make some stuff
Yeah.
And it was very good to like. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much because I was like trying to. When I streamed it, I felt like I was trying to rush and like do things quickly. But when I played it at home, just like on my own, just wonderful to sit and like relax, listen to some music, and just cook up burgers for random people and
Nice.
I do
orders for
love
random
that. I
people.
like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was really really fun.
Those
Um,
like those restaurant or coffee games or whatever where you're just kind of like providing a service to people. It's nice.
Yeah, especially when there's no time limit and it's not rushing you, it feels more satisfying because you get that like just relaxation in of the cooking process and making things and trying to get it right.
What do they call that?
Um,
The flow state, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, the flow
yeah,
state.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I love it.
So like you just put on you had to listen to the music in game, which was pretty wonderful or whatever, but I just didn't feel like it was really like a game like where I would try classify because I would want a story with it.
Right.
That'd be the only thing that I knock it for, that I couldn't put it in my top 5 because there's no real story to it. But yeah, that missed the cut because of that. Thirdly, and I think this is probably a big one to some people, was the FNAF game that came out this year.
Into the
FNAF
pit.
Into the Pit, which I thought was a wonderful game in and of its own, but some of the lore is a little bit difficult to find and not exactly the most satisfying of lore
Yeah.
because it is kind of like, for people who even love FNAF, I think it's a little bit more into, it was based on the books, which isn't really the game lore. But it had its own little thing to it, which was fun, but it was missing something that really would grab me and tell me that I needed to put it in the top 5. So those are my 3 ones that I definitely could have put in here, but they just missed the cut because these other games were just so much more more to me.
Yeah.
The
If you have to
FNAF
read a
thing.
book to understand it, then no.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I can't read. I told you guys this.
How
This
dare
is
you?
why I play video games, right? I
Yeah.
don't play video games to read.
Someone has to
literally
speak it out loud for me.
My wife loves reading books, and she skips through every single kind of dialogue that's in any video game ever. And I'm like, she's like, I hate reading. I was like, what are you talking about? You read 60 books this year. What are you talking like?
That's
Some
so
people are
funny.
just like that.
I've read 4/5 of one book this year. Can I get a?
I've read less than
Can I
that.
get a high five?
I'll give you 4/5 of a high five. So it's a high
like-
4.
It's
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, almost.
I can't.
Yeah, almost making contact. The
You
FNAF
feel the
game,
air pressure between your hands.
yes, you get the wind. The FNAF game just makes me excited because I'm like, yes, please branch out from like basic FNAF
100%.
gameplay.
Yeah.
So like,
And the
anything to
artwork was
break from that.
wonderful. I liked
Oh.
the pixel art of it. The side scrolling was really really fun.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's just something about it that I was a little bit missing compared to the
yeah.
other.
I think them branching out into the book universe is going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, but I think eventually it'll mellow itself out. But that's all I'll say on that. But for me, I'm going to start timing myself. The 3 games, I also have 3 games that didn't make the cut. I'm going to go from like the ones that were the one that was the furthest away to the most very close. Literally got knocked off yesterday. My number 3 was Little Kitty Big City. Did an episode about it. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I enjoy the game. I think it's very cute. I think it's a really like perfect introductory kind of game to like 3D platforming because really none of it is difficult. There's no fail state. It's cute, but yeah, didn't really get me there as much as I thought it would. It's still a good game. Nothing wrong with it, but like, just didn't make the top 5. Would have made top 10, I think, for sure. The other one that would be surprising to a lot of people that like talk to me on a regular basis is the Pokemon TCG Pocket game. The only reason, like, if this game came out 6 months ago, I would know for sure if it was on my top 5 or not. But it just came out like less than a month ago. It's going good now, but as a long-time trading card game player, it can go south very quickly. And so I was hesitant to put it on my top 5 because I am enjoying it. It's Pokemon. It's great. My wife opens packs dailies, and it's a fun little thing that she does. She doesn't do any of the battling, and it's like it works for both people. Yeah, it's cool. But I am trepidatious about TCG stuff because it can get rough in the long run. So that's why it's not on my list. And then the big one, the actual big one that's like I had to like talk about this, like had to talk this one through, is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom did not make my top 5.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was the big one for sure. And the reason being is of these games, it is the only one I did not put a significant amount of time in. Of my 5, I beat all of them except one. And the only one that I'm not is because I'm currently playing it. Like I'm very close. I'm within the last like 20%, I would say. Echoes of Wisdom had if it switched places with the release date of Plucky Squire, I would have beat it. But it had 2 weeks before Metaphor Refantasio came out. So and my life got very busy. So that's what happened. The game is really fun, and I'm sure I'm going to beat it in the next couple months and be like, dang, maybe it should have been on my top 5. But it's a really good game, and everyone should play it. But it just barely missed the cut just because I got through the basic dungeons, and then I got through like one of the like middle dungeons, and that was it. And I was like, this is really good, and I really enjoy this, but I can't judge this game fully until I'm done with it, because who knows, maybe in the next 2 hours of gameplay I would have been like, okay, I'm kind of bored of this whole situation. So that was my big one.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Still love it. Nothing wrong with the game. I loved it. It was great, but I couldn't justify it by not finishing it. Jordan,
I respect that.
What are
that
your
position.
games?
Yeah. I picked 3 as well, mostly because I heard you guys were picking 3 and I wanted to be included.
This was your idea for 3.
Was it? I don't think it was. I think you said you had 3 that were on your mind. I was asking about one in particular.
Yeah, you said like a bunch, I think.
I don't know what I said anymore. My brain is mush. We know this. My brain is mush. It's fine. So yeah, I think that kind of what you all were saying, my 3 are also ones that I would certainly put in a top 10 list, but maybe didn't make the cut for whatever reason for the top 5. And maybe the reason is just that the other 5 were just that good. I don't know. But first one I want to touch on is Star Wars Outlaws. Absolutely love this game. I even played through it before these major patches that came out that Ubisoft put through that improved, quote unquote, a lot of things that people were complaining about. Not to say that I didn't run into any flaws whatsoever or any bugs or anything like that, but nothing that really deterred my sheer joy of living in this world. The best thing I could compare it to, I had popped onto friends over at Spotlight Games podcast and talking about it a little bit. Yeah, shout out. And I think the thing I can compare it to most is, when you're playing Mass Effect 2 and you go to Omega for the first time, and it's just this like seedy underworld, like there's people dancing badly, there's people like buying drinks at the bar. It's like very lived in. That's how this game felt everywhere you went, and that's not something that you see in open world games almost ever anymore. So it already had that going for it, but I also love the characters, I love the gameplay, I love the story. It was just a banger through and through to me. And plus Best Boy 2024 goes to Nyx, your little pet.
That thing is very cute.
Adorable. He's
cute.
So cute. And there are very, very light spoiler here. Mini games that you play that you can find on each planet where you're like sharing a meal with him, and it like you can choose which like stat boost to include based on the meal.
Nice.
It's so cute. But yeah, the game is fantastic. So everybody should give that a shot. The other 2, one of them is going to be Unicorn Overlord. I feel I owe it to this game to mention it because when it was first announced, whenever that was last year, I was like, this is the stupidest name I've ever heard in my life. This looks like pure garbage. What is this nonsense? I heard somebody say Vanillaware, and I was like, oh, that's an insult. You're saying it's basic. Oh, no, that's just the name of the company.
Nope, that's the name. Yeah.
Okay, then. But
That's great.
As a running theme for this year is demos making a comeback. And I played the demo for this game, and I was like, oh, crap. Yeah, I'm buying this game. Like within the first hour, I was completely sold. And it's fantastic. Just amazing tactical gameplay that gets a lot deeper than I would have thought from the surface. It does have some almost comically over-sexualized character designs at some for some of the units, but story-wise, gameplay-wise, the depth of the systems-wise, cannot recommend it enough. And then last but not least for the honorable mentions, I'm going to give a shout out to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Came out at the beginning of the year and was an absolute banger. If you know anything about me from my appearances on anything, I am the Metroidvania guy. I played like 6 or 7 of them this year, and this is probably the first one that came out during this year, and it is certainly one of the best ones. Just the art style is gorgeous. I thought the story was cool. Some people were like iffy on the story and the characters, but I liked them all. The abilities and like the time manipulation and stuff. It's some of the most interesting ways that I've seen time manipulation implemented, both as far as his abilities are concerned and the way that the environment is concerned. Probably in any game that comes to mind like ever. So definitely shout out to that game as well.
Yeah, that's shout out to that studio too, who unfortunately got like folded, and like is not going to be able to work on a sequel or whatever.
Yeah, one of like 10,000 this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
that's industry wide, baby.
Yeah.
Fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, but we're here about positivity. We can do a whole episode about the shitty game industries and how there's too many games and all that stuff.
Looking
but
at you, Annapurna Interactive.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Hey, but good for those people. I've never seen a whole studio walk out like that before.
Oh,
which is
incredible.
dope.
Incredible news.
Okay, but that's our Just Missed the Cut. I'm very curious what you guys think of that. If you're listening on Spotify or on YouTube, this goes on YouTube now too. I always forget to plug that. It's not visual, so Jordan, you don't have to worry about. I know you're like concerned about being on camera.
I'll put a shirt on.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm not wearing any pants, so
you're at home. Who needs pants? But if you are listening on Spotify or YouTube, you can leave a comment. I'm very curious what you guys think about our games that just missed the cut. I'm very shocked. My biggest shocker for you, Jordan, was the fact that Outlaws didn't make it. I definitely thought it was going to be on your list because you were the only person I knew that played that and enjoyed it. So
it was very close. It was a very close call between it being my number 5 game and my number 6 game of the year. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, then, do we want to just go right into it with our number 5?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. That's you, Chris.
All right. So, as we said last year on Derek's episode of this is all very individual lists.
Yes.
So this is stuff that I played versus what Eric played versus what Jordan played. So everyone's going to have a different list. And mine was incredibly different last year.
It was the best
from
list,
everybody else's.
It was the best list.
So it's a lot of indie stuff, obviously. Just to let you guys know, put it out there. I've been that guy for like the last 3 years. So it's hard to break that and play any bigger games. So having said that, my first one, my number 5 on the list, is a little indie game called Home Safety Hotline.
Ooh.
This is a game by Night Signal Entertainment. It's out right now on Steam for $13, and then it has an $8 DLC that just released very recently. The premise of this game is that you work for a new company called the Home Safety Hotline, and you are taking calls from customers, and they have a problem in their home. And what your job is to do is to identify which cryptid is in their home, doing the thing that is bothering them.
Oh.
So it has voice acting, which is pretty fun. People call in, tell you what their problem is, like they're hearing something in the wall and there's something specific happening, and you have to look through your list. You put them on hold. You look through your list of normal problems plus cryptids to figure out what thing is messing with them. And you get little clues later on to tell you if you did it right or wrong, and you get rated by how well you look through the guide and figure out what it is. It's very challenging. Some of the clues make you think it's a fae, make you think it's a troll or some sort of little goblin thing. But you have to really pay attention to what these people are saying to know which thing is actually happening. There's a fun little hidden lore thing that happens with the game that you find out more about the company you're working for and the things that are happening around each kind of thing happening. And the voice acting is just fun. Some people call panicked. There's one ongoing thing where somebody's actually coming in and calling you just to prank call you, which I think is hilarious, and then they'll just hang up. You don't have to diagnose anything. It's just a fun little thing they throw in. Because if you work at a call center, I'm sure you're going to get those kind of calls. But
yeah,
this
for
was
sure.
really like after you finish the game, you find out more about the devs and why they made this game. And this was clearly a passion project for them. They loved a book about cryptids that they found when they were younger, and they were like kind of obsessed with it and tried to figure out a way to gamify helping people learn about cryptids and what they do and all that type of stuff. So it's a very original idea. Um, the story might be kind of thin for some people, but if you look into what's happening, it's pretty fun. And it's satisfying to get the good result, right? Like to get
Yeah.
to the end and be like, oh, you were a really good employee, or you were a really bad employee, whatever reaction you get from the management in the game. Um, but yeah, it introduced me to a lot of different lore about cryptids that just is fun to read
Yeah.
about. Um, and it's just very unique. I never would have thought that working at a call center would be a fun way to play a game, but this made it fun in that way because it's so different than any other kind of like horror indie game that I've played. Because you are just doing like a mundane task, but it has a little bit of like creepiness to it because you're hearing these people complain about. There was one where the woman calls in, he's like, I can't recognize my husband's face, I can't see it anymore,
Ooh.
or whatever. And
Ooh.
it's like, oh, what is this that's causing this
Yeah.
to occur? So it was really, really fun.
That
I
seems
look forward to
sick.
playing it again too.
Yeah, that seems awesome. What a good. I've heard of this. I think you either like you've talked about it before in one of the discords or what, but that sounds incredible. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, that name rings a bell for sure.
you
Did
had
you
me at
stream it?
cryptid.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the like I just never would have thought to do. I mean, obviously kudos to Night Signal Entertainment for making
Hmm.
it. I just never would have thought to make a call center game where you're actually doing the job of being in a call
Right.
center, like looking up information to
There's
give
no fear.
to
It's a
someone.
horror game
Yeah,
with no fear, right?
yeah,
Like you are trying to save people from monsters, but you're like, I'm in a call center. Like I
yeah.
can't do anything.
Like nobody's gonna come after me or
Right.
whatever. But you're affecting them, right?
Right.
Like it's just
Yeah.
that consciousness of like, okay, I want to help this person so that they can figure out their life and not get hurt.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's
Love
so
it.
cool. Okay. I'm going to go now with mine, which I think I kind of alluded to this being on my list during an episode that came out last month. My number 5 is A Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For, which,
Shocking.
God, that game. Chris was on that episode. He can attest. That game is incredible.
It is very,
I
very good.
I can't gush more about like if you're a visual novel fan, you just need to play this game. I did a whole episode about it with Chris. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But it's basically it's a complete visual novel, but it's more point and click / visual novel, where you're just trying to in these sucker for love games try to smooch an eldritch horror. And in this case, it's the god of fertility, lust, love, and forget like motherly love or something like that. There's a lot of, but
Mhm.
it's a hot goat mom. That's basically what you're trying. You're trying to kiss a hot goat mom named Roxanne.
As one does, with their time.
Hey
Perfectly
man,
normal.
she looks great. Yeah, and basically you get summoned into this world. It's very Silent Hilly, like Twin Peaks kind of start off like, why am I in this town? Where is everybody in this town? And then you discover that the town is cursed by the Black Forest, which is summoned by Roxanne, who she's in a situation where it's not great for her. She actually wants to help. She loves humans in her own kind of weird way, and she's been abused by the humans that originally summoned her. And it's you as a Stardust to get her out. And boy, is it well written? Is it funny? Is it creepy? You're really going to like emotionally attach to these characters that you're helping. It basically improves upon the original game, Sucker for Love, First Date. It improves upon it in every single way, except the credit song. That's the only thing I will stand by. That the credit song in the first game is top tier. The music is really good in the new one though, and everyone should go play it because it's like $13, right? Like, it's takes about 4.5 hours to like 100% complete this game. And yeah, it's just great. I'm hoping that they do they did a Kickstarter for a little Anetta plushie for the first one,
Oh
and
yeah.
boy, would I participate in a Kickstarter for a little Roxanne. That would be great. Or a Mew, something like that. And then there's also a giant mystery that we discovered in while we did it live while we recorded the last episode, that there's a door you cannot open.
Yeah.
Apparently the developer was like, yeah, that door will not be able to be opened in the game. Like, you're going to have to do it in some other way. And I was like, what do you mean? So whatever his next game is, Akabaka, whatever
Yeah.
Chromatos is the next game, I'm going to be there day one. I'm going to try to open that purple door.
Can't wait to figure that out.
Yeah, that'll be crazy. But yeah,
This is like a euphemism. Like, have you been opening the purple door?
yeah.
I'm gonna ground you for a week. You know?
Jordan, have you opened the purple door? I'm saying that with my purple mic and my purple shirt. Okay, Jordan, what's your number 5?
So again, this was a close race between Star Wars Outlaws and this is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Absolutely love this game. So what really sold me on it from like the first time I saw a trailer was that it gave me the same vibes as a Tales of Arise, which is an all timer for me. Like it's not identical in any way, shape, or form, but like the art style kind of reminded me of it. I saw flashy combat, I saw big monsters. I was like, okay, this looks like it's kind of cool. And Grand Blue Fantasy rang like a slight bell. I knew that there's like fighting games that are in that world, but I never played those. I never played the browser game that kind of kicked it all off. But again, the trailers looked incredible. I was sold from day one for that. And as we've already talked about a moment ago, there was a demo, and so I was like, yeah, let me just go ahead and confirm how much I want to play this. And one of the best demo experiences I think that's been made in recent years, because it gave you, there's like 3 sections of it. One's I think mostly just a combat tutorial. One is an actual fairly early game story mission, and then another part of the demo is letting you get a feel for the quest system, which plays out a lot like Monster Hunter, where you go to the counter, you accept the quest, you make sure your loadout's okay and your party is the way that you want it to be, and then you hit the button and it's like, okay, off you go, and then it like drops you in the quest, you complete it, then it pops you back to the town. Like it's not like fully open world. There's plenty of open spaces to explore, open zones, I think they call it these days. But it's not like a fully open world, but there's like multiple sky islands that you're exploring throughout the story. Absolutely, the characters are just so charming and endearing. It does that thing where, I mean, I feel like a lot of JRPGs kind of fall into this, where it can get a little cliche, a little bit tropey here and there, but like you can tell that there's so much heart behind it, and that's not always a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like it was one of the games that you're playing through it and you're just having so much fun. Like they're reinforcing their friendships and they're trying to save the day and all this stuff. And
Hell
it just,
yeah.
you
Power
don't
of
always,
friendship.
Hell
yes, exactly. And like there is a power of friendship moment, and it is amazing. Like it is so good. Like visually, the music, like it's so hype, and it just I cannot get enough of it. And it's fairly short as far as JRPGs and action RPGs are concerned. I think you can probably clear the main story in like probably about 12 to 15 hours.
That is
But then
so fast.
there is a massive post game. Like I
Okay.
won't spoil anything here, but like something happens during the last mission, and then that kind of kicks off. Like once you load back in, you can follow this trail of breadcrumbs to try to XYZ, and that takes a while. It's a little bit grindy, but it's a lot of fun. Like getting to the end of that. So again, I probably cleared it in about 13 hours. I want to say the first time through, and at this point, I think I have more like 65 hours in this game. Like
Holy
I cannot
crap.
stop.
Nice.
It came out at the end of January, and I can't stop playing it. Like I keep going back to it because like
That's
there's so many
crazy.
just hype moments. Like it's endlessly replayable. And one of the last things, I feel like I'm getting close to my time here, but there
No, you're
are
good.
even just in that initial main story, there are, I want to say, 18 playable characters. Like you play as
Oh.
like
Wow, that's a
the
lot.
captain that they yeah, I know, right? The captain that you can choose as a male or female. They do have a name, but it kind of plays like Mass Effect, where they just they call him
Mm.
Commander Shepard. They just call you the captain.
Yeah.
Um, So that's like during the main story, the captain has to be one of your party members, one of your 4 party members, but you can control any of the other 17 people at any point. And there's like, people with swords, people with guns, people with spears, people that use magic. There's all kinds of different characters that you can play. So, you're bound to find somebody whose play style just like really clicks with you. So there's just so much variety to it. And there's another character that comes in the post game, and then there's I think been at least 3 DLC characters that have come out that you can either purchase for like $5, or you can do the grind to get the materials for them or whatever. But yeah, like it's just the visuals are stunning. The action's insane. I don't think I saw a single dropped frame the entire time I played, which was like bizarre because there's so much happening at any given point.
Yeah.
But it's just an absolute joy. And like I said, there's a free demo. So if it sounds interesting to you at all for a colorful action RPG with the power of friendship, just go play the demo.
Yeah.
See if you love it. You'll get an hour or so out of that, and then if you like it, then just drop the $60.
Demos
You
are a
saying-
lifesaver.
They are.
You saying that the epilogue is long made me think of Red Dead Redemption 2,
Yeah.
because that is a hefty epilogue.
It's just a hefty game.
I'm gonna blow your mind. I have never touched a Red Dead anything in my life.
Oh man.
Not Revolver, not Redemption, none of them. Just
Play
haven't.
Red
It's all
Dead
good.
2. It's very
Yeah.
good.
You're not my dad.
You're older than me, so yes. All right. So, Chris, take us away with your number 4.
All right, number 4, which I debated about because this is technically, I think I left something off last year because it was only a chapter 1 of something. But this year I'm going to put this one in because it was just so good, and I have very much high hopes for this dev. Indigo Park Chapter 1, which is by a dev named Unique Geese, and it is completely free. Chapter 1 is completely free for people to play. But he is currently developing all the next chapters of it. It is a mascot horror, a la Five Nights at Freddy's and all those other types of games, but incredible, unique designs for everything. It is based on you're going to a theme park for whatever reason, much like some of these other games. The design of the theme park is very, very good. The theming of it is very Disney, where there are themed areas of everything instead of like being just in like a party place like Five Nights, or even just you're like at a factory when you're playing Poppy Playtime, right? These are more themed where you're actually in the amusement park. You're walking in just like Disney. There's a whole foyer area, and then you walk into a certain specific place that this character was in. And you meet pretty much all of the characters either in animated design or their actual like mascots that you're going to be running from later on. But it just has a very good feel. Every single character, the world feels lived in. The characters have relationships that you're intrigued by. There's something that you go through right in the beginning where the Rambly, the raccoon, who is the main animatronic that you talk to, or the mascot, it's so good. He's taking you through like essentially a train ride of all of the different characters that you're going to meet in the park. And he has different interactions with each one. There's one where he meets this actor lion, and he clearly hates this lion. And it's so funny to me because it's such like, it's those types of relationships are so funny because you obviously didn't know why he doesn't like the lion, and you don't really get to know, but you just know that they don't like each other, or like he doesn't respect the lion, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
The game was very, very fun. Lots of little bits of secrets here and there. Lots of little lore drops because you have secret items you can get, secret games you can play, even within this little kind of like 45 to an hour experience of this first chapter. But I will say that they just did it really well. The chase at the end is really well done. Really, like, character looks frightening. There's little hints at it throughout the progress of the game, which I think is great. Some people forget that you need to kind of like drop in little hints that something might be hunting you in certain spots, and he did a really good job of giving you hints that something's wrong with this specific character, and that might be the one that's chasing you at the end.
Ooh.
Yeah. I watched a playthrough of this, and it was like so scary.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Very, very good. And the end of the game, and as Eric pointed out for Sucker for Love, some games have banger ending songs. If you just at least listen to the production value and the amazingness that is the last song of this game, you're like, okay, this guy is on to something because he knows his audience, because the song is so good. The character is so cute while he's singing it. It just makes you feel like he obviously cares about this type of game. And this is why Helm Safety Hotline got into my top spot too, is because I feel like the dev knows his audience, knows the tropes of what he should and shouldn't do with this type of game, and loves trying to make a game like this. And it's really clear when you get to the end of the game and you hear this song. It's like, this is the type of people you're marketing to that would love this sort of thing, to make a song like this so that they get hooked at the end to play more of your game.
You love to see it. Or hear
you
it.
love to see it. So I'm very excited to see what Unique Geese does with the next iteration, the next chapter of this. I can't believe he put this out for free. I can't believe he made it for free.
Yeah.
To be honest, I know that he has a lot of support now. A lot of big creators played his game, and so he's gotten a lot of recognition now. So I hope that he takes that momentum into the next chapter, because the first game is such a good example of what mascot horror can be, while like something like Garden of Banban, if you guys ever heard of that,
Yeah.
is like kind of the antithesis of that, because it's just
Yeah.
a confusing and like low poly mess.
It's made
This
of
one is like,
Play-Doh.
yeah, this one is like the perfect example of what you can do if you're actually a fan of mascot horror and want to make something for fans of mascot horror.
Definitely.
Very nice.
All right. So I'll go for my number 4, which is Hecky Almo. It is 1,000 times.
Hecky
resist.
Almo.
I beat this game in 3 days. I played it on Sunday, Monday, and beat it last night. This game was a part of a bundle that I bought a couple months ago. It had been talked about throughout multiple podcast circles that I'm in. And I was like, all right, I need a break from Metaphor, because it's a little too close to home for things that are going on right now. So I decided to play 1,000 times Resist, which was not much of a break. Spoilers, but I have some notes that I'd like to read off. Jordan has played this game as well. Chris, have you played this game at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm going to keep it spoiler free as possible. But basically, this was the word dump that I put after beating the game. This is a game about choice, regret, mistakes, generational trauma, mental health, parenthood, family, ethics, remorse, rebellion, heartache, loneliness, redemption, misunderstanding, self-reflection, paranoia, connection, self-love, confusion, manipulation, togetherness, theocracy, anti-theocracy, history, burdens, and continuation. All of those things and much more are this game. It's also worth noting this game it's a sci-fi visual novel / like it basically touches on every single type of gameplay there is in this game.
It's hard to describe, isn't it? Like trying to tell somebody what to expect from it.
Yeah.
Like the closest. Sorry to cut you off. Like
No,
in
you're
the middle of your
perfectly
thing.
fine.
Like the closest thing I could think of, which I haven't even played the entirety of any of these games, is like Life is Strange, where you're walking around relatively open environments and you're interacting with the people. You're interacting with the objects to understand the world more, like that kind of a thing. That's the closest thing that I could.
No, that's a good way of putting it. And it's like they do mix up the gameplay. It's a lot of conversations. You're not ever really in danger. It's mostly just you doing, like, you're talking to people, you're solving mysteries, you're diving into the setting is like far future sci-fi, and the world that is just clones of the All-Mother. So everyone is a clone. Everyone looks like you, but doesn't look like you. Sounds like you, but doesn't sound like you. And like all this kind of stuff. And it's like a nature versus nurture thing. It's a bunch of this different experimentation. It's a crazy game. It's inspired by the protests of Chinese citizens in Hong Kong based in 2019. There's a lot of like references to that. The main character is of Chinese descent. She was born in Canada. So, which is, I think, an actual thing. A lot of Chinese people left Hong Kong, went to Toronto, I think, or somewhere around there. It feels real. Like this story feels real, but it is something that the entire time I played this game, not once did I feel like I was like not understanding the story, but also I never felt like I understood the story at the same time.
What was how do you spell the name of the game again?
1000 X resist.
Okay,
All one, no
that's what it is.
spaces.
Got it. That's the one.
And the art style is of like a PS1, PS2 style graphics. I'd say PS2, closer to like end of life PS2. Um,
Yeah, I see now.
Everybody has the same character model for the most part, like the base skeleton, which allowed them to be more detailed with characters that were more important. The voice acting is incredible. The story is amazing. I'm one for like understanding everything. I want to read about stuff. I want to find the lore. I want to watch theories. I want to do that. I ask way too many questions. I read into every point of everything. I ruin plot points for myself by like kind of like figuring them out ahead of time because I'm asking too many questions. This was a game I decided to just kind of like let go and just ride it out. And it was like such a trippy drug induced experience that I feel like if anybody is like, I like story based games, like this should be at the top of your list to play. It was like incredible. It's like one of the most ambitious takes of a story that I've like ever experienced. And like I can't say too much more because you have to play the game. If this at all sounds interesting, the intrigue of like where are the clones coming from? Why did everybody die? Like why did the whole planet die? Basically, very early on, they tell you that there was an alien invasion and everybody started to die by leaking their bodily fluids out of their tear ducts until they died.
Fun.
Yeah. And except for one girl, one 18-year-old girl who ended up becoming the all mother and is like all the characters you meet are clones of her. And it's like, how did that happen? And through time, you'll figure that out. And it's just, it's crazy. I want it to be an anime so bad, right? Like it would be
It
so
looks
good.
like it would translate pretty well just from the visuals that I've seen so far.
Yeah. It is so good. And it's like, like I could go on forever about it. The one thing that I think was really interesting is like some of the voice acting ranged from like the best voice acting I've heard all year to like some of the worst. And honestly, I felt like that added to it. Like it was like this roller coaster of like, is this character I talk to going to sound like a normal person or are they going to sound like a robot? Like what's going to happen? And like it kept you on your toes this whole time. And like all of it could be building up to like what the end like big twist of this game is towards the end. Like maybe that's why they sound all weird. Who knows? But you should go play it. Heki Almo.
Heki Almo.
One of my
okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say since I don't know much about it, that I was reading some of the stuff on Steam, and one of the names for one of the characters is Bang Bang Fire, and that's already selling me. That sold me already.
She goes by BB, and she's one of the best characters.
I love it.
She's hard to understand, but is very philosophical. She's a great character.
Yeah, and like the where did it go? I had it and I let it go. It didn't come back.
It'll come back,
my
I'm
bad.
sure.
It's my bad.
No, dude, it's fine. No worries at all.
I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll hear about this game. I have a feeling.
Something that I will add to, like, just real quick before I go into my number 4 is that as Eric just mentioned, the character is of Chinese descent. I believe that I kind of had to look this up, but if I'm not mistaken, then like in the game, it's like heavily implied that her parents actually fled those Hong Kong riots from 2019.
It's like explicitly stated.
Yeah. And with like the whole world dying from mysterious diseases after an alien invasion and your character being of Asian descent, there's some very like gut punchy story elements relating to how the world at large treated people of Chinese descent during the pandemic when it was at its height. And so it was, well, I think along those lines, what I was going to say was that I don't know if I wouldn't call this a horror game, but there are some incredibly tense moments, some that like there was at least one or two that I was like, oh, like
it's extremely
like that
atmospheric, is what I would say. Like,
yeah.
it is extreme. Chris, I think you and your chat would have a fun time playing this game.
Okay.
I don't know how funny. There's definitely some funny moments, but I think this would be a very serious Chris stream over a couple days for sure.
Yeah.
But I think your chat would have a fun time trying to figure out what the hell is going on at any point. All right, Jordan, take us away with your number 4.
My number 4 is Senua Saga Hellblade 2.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
This year. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
What a year it's been.
Yeah.
It's almost like Xbox forgot to market it
That's
until
true.
a week before it came out. That's a whole other podcast episode. Anyway, I can say, I'm 34 years old. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I literally do not remember a time in my life when I was not playing video games. Like, that's how young I started, was that I don't have memories of not playing games. Hellblade 2 is the most technically astounding game I have ever played. Full stop. I had to upgrade the RAM on my laptop to even be able to play it.
R.I.P.
It's a gaming laptop. Like, it's not like a little HP whatever. It's a Victus. It's a gaming laptop, and I still had to upgrade the RAM to be able to play it. But I mean, just the sound, the visuals, the performances, the motion capture, it is all just at the height of what we were kind of promised for this console generation, but that never really came because everything's been like cross-platform release from like the previous generation too. Because that's we're hitting that. The law of diminishing returns is kind of where we're heading for a lot of like visuals and stuff. But no, this game, this is like next gen to a T in ways that I had never seen and may not see for the rest of this console generation either, for that matter. But I think that I feel the same way about this as Eric was talking about with Sucker for Love, where they took what worked for the first game and they just took what the first game was essentially and just dialed it all to 11. For some people that didn't work. Some people wanted them to innovate more. Some people wanted like different things to be in the game. I personally say the devs never even hinted that will be the case. They told us from the get-go what kind of a story length we were looking at, what kind of gameplay elements would be there, and they delivered exactly what was promised, in my opinion. So I'm definitely of the mind that this game got a lot. It didn't get bad reviews, but it got like lower than I would think that it deserves based on what I saw, what I experienced.
I don't know why anyone would expect anything different from these games. Like,
I don't know either.
They're like a spiritual, like mental health experience. Like that's what these games are. Like
they're
beautiful. They're a beautiful movie, but it's in a form of a video game that like this is the only way you can experience it, right? Because you're controlling it. It's one of the things that video games can do that other mediums can't. Like you're in control and you're experiencing this on your own.
Exactly, and there is plenty of combat, and it is visceral combat. Like they changed it up to where instead of being surrounded by enemies all the time, it's like always a one-on-one thing with very interesting and usually mostly well done transitions between one enemy to the next. But you feel every hit. You feel it like both to you and the ones that you're delivering to the enemies. And as Eric just mentioned, it is like a mental health story. I mean, the entire, if somehow the three people who don't know this happen to find this podcast episode, like the character Senua experiences psychosis in her everyday life, both visual and auditory hallucinations. And she came to terms with that at the end of the first game in very beautiful ways. And just this incredibly affecting moment early on in this game after she's crawling away from the shipwreck and climbs up these rocks, and she sees this essentially one of the more negative personifications of her psychosis that like taunts her and haunts her is essentially her father, for how abusive he was to her and when he was alive. And he kind of like is like the sorry, it's hard to explain. He's kind of like the for her the manifestation of her like darkness and her like struggles and stuff. And she sees him and she's just like, Melanie Juergens deserves all the awards ever. Just this gut wrenching delivery of like, you like, why are you back? Why are you here again? Kind of a thing. And he's like, you can't get rid of me that easily. Like
Yeah.
I'm always here, and like that kind of a thing just hits so hard for somebody like me who I don't deal with that. I do live with depression. I do have anxiety at times as well. And for most of us, that's going to be a lifelong thing, whether that's a hard struggle or just in the background noise, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's it's a lifelong thing for a lot of people. And so for them to bring that to the forefront so soon in the game of like, it's not like you're just going to go on a, spirit quest and just get rid of your mental illness. There are ways to cope. There are ways to deal with it and fight through it and all that. But that doesn't mean it's going to be gone forever. And for them to kind of like deal with that in a gamified, very visually affecting and very beautifully performed way so soon in the game was I really appreciated that. And the rest of the story, just watching her be able to go from kind of doing the solo journey that she did in the first game to interacting more with other people and like having people fight alongside you and almost become almost like sort of a leader, as you saw in the earlier trailers with her like leading the charge on this like battle on a beach. It was like really cool as a character study kind of a thing to see that how that played out. So yeah, definitely.
It's on Game Pass, right?
Yes, that's actually.
So everyone.
I was able to play it on Game Pass. I hope to buy it at some point, but we're all adults. Money gets tight sometimes, and you do what you can. So
you have Game Pass.
I mean, that's what Game Pass is for, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, is to try those games that are maybe up there in price or whatever, and get to actually play them without having to sink in too much more monetary cost every month.
For sure. And like that's another thing too, is that like not only is it on Game Pass, that's also, even if you do want to pay full price for it, full price MSRP is $50.
Nice.
Yeah.
And people were still complaining like it's not long enough. It's not blah blah blah. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
This is art. You're paying for art that you can play.
Yeah.
And it's not just a walking simulator. There's puzzles to solve that are really well done and visually striking. And there's combat that's, again, visually striking and visceral. And like, it just, I'm a lot higher on the game than a lot of people were. But again, I couldn't recommend enough. If you liked the first game, then this is like the first game dialed to 11 with a new story, new, like, very well done elements to explore. So
nice. Well, okay. There's our first two games each, and we're going to take a little break from our lists and read some some Discord user submitted answers. I'll start us off while you guys get ready with your lists. Next year, or if you want to join the Discord, there will be a link in the description. And we do stuff like this every once in a while. We look for some user feedback, user responses, things like that to be read on shows. So if you want to be a part of that, check it out. I'm going to start us off with Manny's. This is my cousin. I knew what his was before he even submitted it, because every single time I log on to Steam, I see that he's playing this game. So his number one pick for 2024 is Satisfactory. Reason why: has an amazing gameplay that always keeps you engaged, and the ups the complexity at a steady pace, but never feels like too much. Everything happens at the perfect time. I think this game is the best in its genre: base building, automation. The soundtrack is good too. So, Satisfactory is like 3D, first person or 3D, third person, whatever. Satisfactorio or whatever. Factorio, I think is what it's called. So, very, very management heavy game. He's playing it constantly. I've heard nothing but good things. He's also, like a programmer and stuff. So that kind of scratches that itch for him.
Ooh, nice.
That helps a lot, I think.
Right, exactly. I was like, I can only get so far. The complexity might be increasing at a steady pace for you, Manny, but I'm glad.
For the rest of us idiots, it's not so easy, okay?
His honorable mention for 2024, so worth noting, honorable mention for 2024 can be basically your other game of the year, or it can be a game that you played this year that didn't come out this year. But for Manny, it was Astrobot. The reason why, he said, "What can I say that hasn't been said? Super fun and gorgeous looking platformer. Loved the homage to PlayStation past and present. Loved every second of it." Worth noting, this man exclusively plays PC games, so Astrobot being on his list at all means it is that good. So
Okay.
very nice accolade there for Astrobot. All right, Chris, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So we have a submission by one of my community members, Chartreuse Charcuterie, and he loved this game so much that it is both his number one pick for 2024 and his honorable mention. So I'll read his reasons why all together. It's Bethesda's passion project. It's a culmination of decades of labor, vision, and technology. This is Starfield, by the way. I didn't read the name of the game.
I was like, Chris.
Starfield. My bad. Starfield. It's Bethesda's passion project. It's a culmination of decades of labor, vision, technology. It's also in a lot of ways, and this is a quote, it's also in a lot of ways the best game we've ever made. But for us, most importantly, Starfield has its own unique personality and now sits right next to Fallout and Elder Scrolls. There is so much to explore that's accurate about space. There's nothing out there, absolute realism, and Snake God. That's what he wrote.
Snake God.
I think I did play this game for a little bit, and I'll just say that I thoroughly enjoyed just collecting trinkets, and it spawned one of my favorite TikToks I've ever seen, which was a girl was playing it, didn't know about the storage system because the game doesn't really give you much tutorial, and all of her trinkets that she stole from places were just sitting on the floor of her ship. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a video game.
I'm sure the Bethesda engine loved that.
Which I thought was amazing. But yes,
it did.
People did love Starfield.
Yeah, he loved it so much that it was a game that came out in 2023, made his 2024 list. But
there was an expansion.
There was a big expansion.
There was an expansion, yeah.
Shattered Space,
which I've heard literally makes it like what everyone wanted it to be. So I like the first time I've been intrigued by Starfield was the reviews on the new DLC.
The aggregate was not great, but again, that's take with that what you will.
Yeah.
A number is a number. Follow your heart.
A number is a number is a number. 6-1.
Hekiamo.
Hecky Grace. I'm so happy to be able to. I've been like having this shit run through my head for 3 days, and I can start saying stuff now.
Hair to hair,
hair to hair, red to blue. Sound like insane people right now. Okay, Jordan, hit us with another one.
Yes. So this is a submission from Basic Fun, friend of the channel, friend of the me. Has a great, just a stand-up guy. Has a great YouTube channel, so definitely go follow him. Basic, as in like the bass instrument, like BASSICFUN, all one word. His pick for 2024 is Hades 2. He says, Hades 1 has a special place in my heart for revitalizing my gaming spirit. I attribute a lot of what I've done on my channel to it. Hades 2 expands that love so much more. That, and it's an awesome game with loads of replayability. Not sure if early access counts, but I do. And you know what?
Counts.
I do too.
That game I've heard is like more ready than early access Hades 1 ever was already.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And his honorable mention, words are hard, is Neva. He says, at the time of writing this, I haven't played Neva yet, but I know this will be among my favorites this year. I played Grease earlier this year and loved it, so I think a similar game with combat at the amazing art direction will be a clear favorite in my book.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll hear more about that later on down somebody's list. So we don't have to talk too much about that, but there was a great bundle with Grease and Neva.
Yeah.
And boy, did I pick that up real quick.
Absolutely.
Humble Bundle is going to absolutely bankrupt me someday.
If it hasn't already.
It hasn't. Not yet. Very cool. I appreciate the response, and definitely picking a game as your honorable mention for something you haven't played, I think is the perfect use of an honorable mention. All right. Next up is Jackie from the podcast Fake Gamer Bro. Very good podcast. Longer episodes, shorter episodes. They do everything. Their number one pick is Dragon Age The Veilguard. I love the characters, the journeys they go on, the new lore drops, and the rest of the game are added bonuses, but characters have always been the most important part of most games for me, especially Dragon Age games, and I love them all in Veilguard. Yes. Jackie is big fan of of Dragon Age, so much so that they like missed posting an episode of their podcast because they played it all weekend when it came out. I'm pretty sure.
Wonderful.
I respect that.
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I almost took a
Full
day
respect.
off. I almost took multiple days off of work this year for certain games, so I totally get that. I've heard good things about Veilguard. It definitely intrigues me. I'll probably pick it up someday on a sale. Their honorable mention is something that I will play very, very soon. Is Slay the Princess.
Ooh, I've heard of this.
Yes, it's a
Yeah,
wonderfully
it's
drawn, acted, written horror visual novel. It's a love story. And if any of that interests you, you absolutely have to play this, especially if you like the narrative as a concept. They just released a free expansion, which it's like huge, with several more routes, and it's also now on consoles, so it's even more worth grabbing than before. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this game, and it's a time loop kind of game, and boy, those are fun, especially in a visual novel sense, because visual novels are the best for for time loops because you can fast forward through dialogue.
There was we had a, not to go too behind baseball on this podcast itself, but we
Mhm.
did briefly discuss games that we missed this year that we should have played.
Yeah,
And this is absolutely one of them, because I
I'm
had
surprised
this
you
on
didn't
my
play this.
radar for so long, and for whatever reason, it just never worked out for me to play it. And this one, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, I definitely am excited to play it, especially now that there's the extra expansion. So maybe keep an eye out for future episode because it fits the vibe perfect.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, who you got?
All right, so next submission is from our man's Derek,
Ooh,
who was on this episode last year.
Yeah.
And hosted the episode last year. Number one pick for 2024 for Derek is Astrobot. That's a second mention for Astrobot, I
Yeah,
believe, for
Astrobot.
Game of the Year.
Astrobot's gonna make some waves during the actual Game of the Year. I feel like.
Yeah. So his reasoning was Astrobot is a refreshing return to the simpler times of gaming. It's a platformer at heart with insanely fun, quirky abilities, and the level designs are beautifully crafted. It's a video-ass video game. The gameplay is tight, responsive, with increasingly fun mechanics, and proves you don't need a multi-million-dollar budget or a Hollywood-crafted storyline to hook you in. Furthermore, the nostalgia hits hard, not only in the bots you rescue, which are modeled after iconic PlayStation characters, but also in the gameplay itself. It reminds us that games can succeed by focusing on fun, creativity, and charm.
Yeah, it's like he has a blog or something. He's so good at writing. It's like he has a blog called Get Good, that's focused on lots of topics of video game and mental health and all that kind of stuff. It's like that. He's so good at writing, and everyone should go look that up and follow him. But yeah,
he makes good with words.
Yeah, he makes good with words.
And if you haven't seen it or don't know how to find it somehow, you could join the Leveling Friends group Discord and find out more about it.
Yes, but yeah, Astrobot is definitely a crowd pleaser, and I wish I had a PS5 to be able to play it.
Right. Every clip I've seen of it looks like it's so much fun.
Oh my god, yeah.
His honorable mention this year was Persona 4, which one of our panelists here is very familiar with Persona.
Yeah.
As someone who has never played a Persona game, I finally tried out Persona 4 after Metaphor was announced, primarily because of the good review Metaphor was getting, and also a good friend of mine, Eric from Short Game Long Talk, is basically the Persona champion. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Never heard of him. I did not expect. I did not expect to get so invested in each character storyline, which, by the way, you have to choose who to hang out with and progress with. And I constantly found myself talking to myself on how I should spend my day in Persona 4. Combat is fun, but really I'm hooked with the multiple stories and the main story. Shout out to my dude Eric. I'm Persona pilled.
Hell yeah! Successfully Persona pilled another person. I've gotten 2 so far, and I'm going to get. I'm working on Jess. That's my big white whale, is to get Jess to play Persona 5 and absolutely ruin the process of my own show and just have a game that's 100 hours long.
Eric is waiting on the rocky shore of a Persona Island, singing like a siren, trying to get people shipwrecked on Persona Island.
Metaphor sure as hell made it easier too.
There you go.
It's so much easier now. Awesome. Love it.
We've
Thank
said it
you,
before,
Derek.
Eric. What you got to do is you got to cover a game like that, but make it your shortest episode possible.
Dude, I'm still
Long
I
game, short
still-
talk. Let's make it happen.
I did that for April 1st this year.
Oh,
and
that's
posted-
right.
And I rickrolled
forgot.
everyone.
That's so good.
That was really good.
I got
forgot
my
about that.
wife. Like she's like,
That's so
"What? I
funny.
don't remember you recording this." And she clicked on it. She got so mad.
hilarious.
And you better believe I'm gonna do it again.
I will respect you less if you didn't. So
Yeah, every year I'm gonna
keep that in
do it.
mind.
Okay. All right.
My next one to
Yes.
read is from a good friend of mine, the Dumpster Boy. His number one pick for 2024 is Dragon's Dogma 2. He says, Game of the Year to me is something that pushes the games industry forward in new and exciting ways. In this case, Dragon's Dogma 2 elevates a unique concept of global NPCs with distinct AI that provides a customized playthrough for each individual player. It's an incredibly interesting take on a genre currently being inundated with Souls-like clones that sets itself apart in exciting ways. His honorable mention is Bloodwash, which is all one word and in all caps.
Mhm.
If you've never played Bloodwash, just take the hour and a half to do it. It's unlike anything you've ever seen before. Okay.
Nice.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but the Dumpster Boy himself is definitely the Dragon's Dogma.
Dog.
He's the the Dragon's Dogma dog for sure. I don't know anybody else that talks about that game as much as he does, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah,
Bloodwash is one that I've heard a bunch of because of indie horror.
okay, sweet,
Like there's a lot of really good playthroughs of it, and I've heard nothing but good things about it as well.
sweet. We'll have to add that to the list for sure. All right, next up we have Bell. Bell's number one pick was also Hades 2. Even in early access, it's phenomenal. I love roguelikes, and it seems like the promising game from Supergiant is going to be phenomenal when it comes out. Yeah, short and sweet. I don't know how they will not make an incredible game when it's all said and done. Supergiant, like, this is their first sequel ever, which is crazy. Like, they never make sequels, and the fact that they are means like they got something cooking for sure.
Right.
Honorable mention is Black Myth Sung Wukong. Wonderful gameplay. Shit was great. I had a really fun time playing it.
Short and simple.
Yeah,
Perfect.
right to the point. I respect the hell out of it. All right, Chris, what do you got next?
So we've got a submission by GB Jakey, and the number one pick is UFO 50, which is 50 fantastic games jammed into one package, tied together with an amazing meta narrative about why games are important and fun. RPGs, platformer, puzzle, strategy, action, and more are all here and amazing. Velgress is my fave.
Yeah,
Which-
did you either of you play UFO 50?
I did not.
No.
I heard about it, though.
I bought it, and it's the only time I've ever used the Steam refund system. I thought I would love it. I heard great things about it. Then while playing it for the first hour, I realized that I was born in 1993 and these games were going after people that were born like in the mid 80s, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me, kind of thing. Like when your video game brain awakens to like Dreamcast and PS1 and PS2, it's really hard to like really make a connection to like NES and SNES and Atari type games. So I was just like, I gotta get this money back, even though the concept of this game is incredible.
So
I
you're
respect
saying
it.
it's for me.
Yeah. Yes, you should play it. Honestly, it would be a great stream game because you could it'd be a variety stream in one setting.
It's true.
Ooh,
it's
true.
Yeah. And it's honestly really affordable, and I thought it was really cool. So like it just wasn't clicking, and I was like, I can't. I got to get my money back.
The honorable mention was The Last Guardian. Reasoning is I feel so lucky to experience art as special as The Last Guardian. Ueda and the team at Gen Design made such a special experience. Trico is a real creature with so much life and love, and Journey Out of the Valley you take together is beautiful and one of a kind. After watching playthroughs of The Last Guardian, it is one of the most like beautiful games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like the scale of it is incredible.
I played that game day one, and it was a glitchy mess, and it was so funny.
Yeah.
Trico was not a good boy. But yeah, that game is incredible. It's really, really cool. I forget what their new studio's called, but the whole team Eco, like, God, what a stellar group of people over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Very nice. I liked the variety on that one. It was nice. Two completely different ones on here.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Phil from Codex, the podcast. Very good podcast about lore. I have been literally obsessed with their RuneScape lore that they've been doing on there. And I've never played RuneScape. So that's how you know it's a good lore podcast, when you give a shit about something you've never played.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect.
His number one pick is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Every year, there's always one game I end up playing on the couch with my wife, and this year it was Lorelei. The satisfaction of solving puzzles together would be enough to put this at number one, but really puts it over the top is how much Lorelei tickled the part of my brain that loved deep reading a classic piece of literature in sophomore English. You feel like a genius discovering the most obvious thing ever. It's a game about art, it's a game about obsession, and it's a game about you, the audience. Phil is another blog person, so
that is so well written.
It's better than anything any of us will say tonight. I literally have like caveman speak for my number 3 on here. I've heard about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, but I haven't touched it.
Yeah, I believe
myself.
that's another Annapurna released game.
Probably.
If I'm
what isn't
incorrect, I'm not. Yeah, what isn't right? A lot of really quality games were released by that publisher. So
nothing anymore though.
Yeah.
Plot twist. I was released by Annapurna Interactive.
Whoa.
You heard it here first.
He's a mole. He's an insider. He's going to get us. Phil's honorable mention was Botany Manor. Botany Manor is one of the best puzzle games that came out this year. In it, you play as the head of a Downton-esque manor house in the British countryside, solving plant puzzles based on fantastical botanical discoveries. As you play, though, you uncover a story of a woman constantly thwarted by a male-only scientific community. Bright and vibrant, Botany Manor is a gorgeous game hiding a powerful story of passion and perseverance. I didn't know this game was that deep. I thought it was just plant puzzles. So thank you for opening my eyes, Phil. That seems
sometimes
awesome.
Games have like surprising meta lore that is baked into them when it's just a simple game and you just don't expect it. And that's probably one of those situations.
Sounds like it. Okay. I think that is all of them, right? That's everybody that's submitted?
I got one last
one.
You
got one more? Sweet.
Yep. We got one from Peachwag, a.k.a. Peachwussy. Peachwag and the Dumpster Boy are the co-hosts of Spotlight Games Podcast. Shout out to them again. Great friends of mine. So his number one pick is Astrobot. He does say, I still have some games to finish, so indicating that might change by the end of the year. But his why is, I was afraid that the magic from Astrobot Rescue Mission in VR might not translate to a full game, and I couldn't have been more wrong. The inclusion of the history of PlayStation really let this title soar to new heights in the 3D platforming pantheon. His honorable mention is one that we have not heard tonight, Backyard Baseball 97. It's both a 27-year-old game and a 2024 release. It's been such a GD delight playing a backyard sports game again. It's the most accurate one-to-one remake I've ever played, for better and for worse, and it has me super jazzed for the rest of the backyard games to be coming out in the coming months.
I am so excited to play those games eventually.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they're remaking all of them is so exciting. Like,
yeah,
it's so
pretty cool.
They're so sick. Like, oh man, yeah, the Mighty Melonheads or whatever his team is.
Yeah,
he keeps talking about on Spotlight Games. I wonder what their record is now.
I think he won the series. I thought I can't remember. Yeah,
good for him. Yeah, what an incredible pull. I cannot believe they're remaking those. Like I hadn't thought about those games in years, and now I'm like, I cannot wait for the remakes to come out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for submitting your game of the years. It was really fun. I love hearing from you guys. A lot of variety there. It seemed like Astrobot was the main winner though, which I think may be what ends up happening at Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards.
Right.
I have a feeling It's
It's certainly on the short list. If it doesn't win, it's at least going to be nominated. So
I'd be surprised if it didn't. It just has so much appeal compared to everything else that would be in the running. But all right, are we ready to head into our next 2 games before we go into our honorable mentions?
Let's do it.
All right, Chris, take us away with your number 3.
So at number 3, I have a game that was mentioned on here before, which is Sucker for Love, A Date to Die For, which is our first in common game.
Let's go.
I was reminded because of the episode that we did how much I love that game. Going and rewatching it through, and we talked about it in the episode, really I was like amazed by some of the dialogue, some of the characters that you just end up falling in love with, the improvements, like Eric said earlier, from game 1. The first Sucker for Love is just phenomenal. It's one of the games I didn't realize that you could really just improve the form from one game to the next as much as this one did. The art style, fantastic. Very, very anime, very our era of anime.
Like 90s, it's so clean.
Yeah.
Everything is so clean.
Very pretty artwork, great voice acting. Every character you meet has a unique quality to them. And your main character is just so much fun to play and interact with. Very different, as we said. I mean, you could listen to that whole episode that we did gushing about it on Short Game Long Talk. Because even like I'll quote Jess. Jess was not into the first game, and she was very into the second game, which shows you how much they improved it. They were able to turn someone who wasn't like super jazzed about the first game, and turn them into a person who wanted to play every single. Yeah, a sucker for love. But yeah, I won't spend too much time about it because we talked about it enough. Eric talked about it a ton too. But this was just a very impressive thing. It has one of my favorite jokes I've ever heard in a game, only to be surpassed by something else that's on this list. But like it's one of my favorite dialogue heavy games. Very, very good story, and
it's a breeze to play.
Yeah,
it is
nothing bad to say about it. It's so much fun to listen to and interact with. Little turns here and there that are just really, really fun.
Yeah, like I mentioned in the episode about it, like I normally, when I'm like completing a visual novel, I'm usually like pretty drained by the time I'm done with it. I was like energized when I completed all the true endings. It was like I was not. That's my mark of a good game now, as I'm like into my 30s, is like if I don't feel exhausted by the time I'm done playing, like for the session, if I have to stop myself because I have to go to bed, but I can keep playing, that's a mark of a good game. But if I'm like, it's 10 o'clock, I need to stop because I'm like, my eyes are going cross, that means I'm like straining myself to play this game. Yeah, that game. I'm glad you came on the show and this made your list, because last year you missed a game too, because you were when I said number 5, Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was my number 5. You're like, I forgot about that game, so I'm glad I could help.
Exactly, it really did help. It really did help to look back
all the way to number 3 too. What a spot. Top 3. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, the game is so good. Okay. On to my number 3, which, these top 3, I don't think will be a shock to anybody that knows me. Number 3 is Persona 3 Reload. Such a good game. Is Persona is good is my note. It's the Persona game that gave us what we have now as the Persona structure. It was the one that came after 1 and 2. And set the calendar.
Work, yeah.
Yes, right. It came after 1 and 2, which were very weird games. Jordan, and 3 set up the calendar system that we all know and love. If you know Persona or a lot of other games now, like Fire Emblem and things like that, utilize a calendar system, and this is the game that set that up. So I almost played this game before, but then I heard 3 Reload came out, and I was like, I'm not gonna play through the original game and then this game. It's a really good game. It didn't crack my top two, and it's obviously not my top one. But it is such a good game. I honestly like flip flop back and forth if I like the characters in Persona 3 more than Persona 5 overall, like
Ooh.
consistently. I think the Persona 5 characters have a higher high, but there's so many more characters in Persona 5 that I'm like, fuck this person. Like, I don't like them. Whereas in Persona 3, I think every single character that I like talked with and connected with, I really, really enjoyed. Whereas in Persona 5, there's like characters that I'm like, I'm maxing you out of spite. I don't want to talk to you. Uh, but the story, one thing that's very interesting to me is like I personally have had a lot of loss, like close loss, death, and loss in my life.
Mm.
Throughout my life since I was young. Like I think the earliest like funeral I remember going to was like in kindergarten. And it's been consistent since then. And this game is about loss. It's a huge amount of loss. Everyone that you meet in this game goes through loss, has experienced loss, will experience loss in some way, shape, or form. And that's kind of the whole crux of this game. And that's where a lot of the story connected with me and didn't connect with me at the same time because these kids they're teenagers, right? They're going through this loss, they're going through this struggle and everything like that. And me as a 30-year-old man who's gone through a lot of loss and lost somebody very important to me when they were a teenager was like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Like, we don't have to be that sad about it. We can be sad now, but it's okay. Whereas like if I would have played Persona 3 when I was 19 years old and lost somebody important to me, I would have spiraled. Like the game is like it hits what it feels like to lose someone and like to like so well. It is articulated so well and it is really really heavy and really really joyous at the same time. And I'm excited to go back and play the episode Aegis, which at first I was going to try to play it for this because I heard it was 20 hours, and then reports came out that it was like another 60 hours or something like that. I was like, good, I'm going to take a little break because Metaphor is coming out. But it's a very good game. I do think it's a really good jumping off point because I beat it in like, I think like close to 80 hours, which is half of the time it took me to beat Persona 5. So and I took my time, obviously. So I think this game could easily be beaten in like 60 hours, which I feel like is a respectable JRPG, not an insane amount of time. And it will introduce people to the Persona thing, like the structure really well. And it makes sense. This is a lot of people will talk about Persona 3 is the only time where the calendar system makes sense. And it does. It's because like you fight a boss at the end of every month because there's a full moon and that causes shit to happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't really want to go too much into like the story of this game. Like you're a high school student, you unlock the ability to summon a persona. Worth noting that they use these things called activators that are guns. So basically they're shooting themselves in the head to activate this game came out in like 2005, worth noting. So they didn't change. They were just going to get rid of these things. But it's very cool. It's very good. Music is stellar. The music it's not as good as Persona 5, which is another knock for it, but it's very good. Very, very different, which is cool. I'm glad they didn't just be like, yeah, we're Persona. It's jazz music now. There's definitely some, yeah.
That's what jazz sounds like, right?
Yes, that's what it sounds like. But it's very good, and I think anyone that has Game Pass should try it out. And it definitely takes, you got to give it like 10 hours for sure, but it's a very good game.
Nice.
All right. Jordan, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So I feel like I was one of the many people who, when they first showed that trailer for it, we were like, it's a Link to the Past, but in the Link's Awakening art style.
Mhm.
And there actually is, not to spoil anything, but there is some evidence that perhaps this is the same actual world
Ooh.
as Link to the Past. That's more like just people looking at maps, not like confirmed in the game or anything like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I truly am not spoiling the game, but just if that matters to you. But anyway, definitely, I was very excited that we're actually playing as Zelda for once.
Yeah.
Not only as just a feminist myself, but as somebody who is raising a now 4-year-old daughter who loves watching me play games and loves playing games with me. I played easily half or more of this game with my daughter, like passing it back and forth. And it was incredible to watch her go from like passing it back to me when there were bad guys around to literally like a week later, just laying waste to everything.
Nice.
It was hysterical. Like, because there's I forget what it's called, but there's this enemy. It's been in the series before where it's basically like a little plant-looking guy that like spikes protrude from it and it spins around really fast. And
Oh,
so
it's
we
the
would
like
just like,
helicopter thing, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like something hat. Like a hat is in the name of the enemy.
Yeah, those the keys are bats and stuff. Like it's a weird.
Yeah,
Like
but
it's the naming conventions are weird.
that was like our go-to. She'd just be like,
yeah.
"Put down the spiky friend. Put down the spiky friend." And like, I got you, girl. And I mean, like,
Absolutely.
speaking of like devs and whoever that know their audience, it was so funny because pretty early on you come across if you don't know what the mechanic is based on the trailers, then again you're playing as Zelda. You meet a little fairy-esque being named Tri, who lends you the Tri Rod that is able to essentially make echoes or copies of objects and enemies. So you defeat an enemy that's not a boss, then you're able to then learn the echo for it and then summon it for yourself to solve puzzles and or fight for you. And one of the early game ones is this little blobby guy that has like a little flame on its head. So I used whatever I had at the time to kill it and then learn the echo for it. It's like the next room.
It literally is the next room.
It's like in a cave. The next room is full of grass that has enemies in it. And so you're like, I know what to do here. So you just send out your new flame blob guy that just burns all the grass down
Oh
and
my
kills all the
gosh.
enemies. It's like, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
You knew exactly who your
Yeah.
audience was. And I respect that. And I know it's a cliche, but it's true that they really were miraculously able to condense that freedom of puzzle solving in like a million different ways that we found in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and condense it into that, top down isometric style of Link to the Past and Link's Awakening and all those old school Zelda games. And like the only knock I can really have against it that keeps me from giving it like a perfect score, so to speak, is that it has the same issue that Tears of the Kingdom did, where you have so many materials that you can attach to your arrows in Tears of the Kingdom that you're just like scrolling through, like it
Yeah.
feels like an endless
Yeah.
list. By the time you're rolling credits and Echoes of Wisdom, it's the same issue with your echoes. You can organize them in a few different ways, like organized by type, by most recent learned, by most frequently used. But of course, there's gonna be situations where like which one you need to use, but you haven't used it in like 7 hours, and so
Yeah.
it's not in any like easily findable thing. But
If they would have made just like a 3x3 grid that you could place like as your
Yeah.
favorites, that would have made it so much easier to be like, okay, I'm in this dungeon. This is the stuff I'm going to need. I'm not going to utilize anything else, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
it definitely got overwhelming for sure. And I only got like 10 hours in, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem, especially if you explore a lot, because the exploration a lot of the times rewards you with like a hidden enemy that has like a cool ability, like that little the spinny guy, the spinny plant spike guy is like hidden away, like he's off the path. Like you'll run into him eventually, but like if you want to get him early, you have to explore a little bit and you find him in a cave and it's just him, and you're like, oh, this is my reward then. Like that's how it is. So, but yeah,
Right.
very very cool game.
Yeah, it really is, and the puzzles themselves are so well done. And again, just as I mentioned before, there are so many ways that you can do it. And I feel like this is one of the rare games where the final stretch, first of all, is, I know you haven't got there yet, Eric. I'm not gonna spoil anything for anybody. Absolutely incredible. I don't think anything is gonna top the final stretch of Tears of the Kingdom for those who played that.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna be at that level, like probably ever in my lifetime. But it's so well done. It's incredible. And I think that they really truly nailed the thing that so many games, even Zelda games, don't always nail, which is actually making the finale be a culmination of all the things you learned along the way, as opposed to just like, fighting Ganondorf and just using like maybe one special move that you
Right.
remembered from like an earlier battle, but like No, you are truly using like everything that you learned. Obviously, not all your echoes, but just as far as like the skills and like the strategies and stuff. Like I was even doing something in the final battle that I wasn't even sure was going to work, but then it did, and it was actually like super effective. And I was like,
That's
this is
awesome.
so cool that like I didn't have to do that. I could have still beat this boss without doing this strategy that I just offhandedly thought about doing, but it worked. And yeah, it was really cool to be able to again play as Zelda and use her whole thing being wisdom, being the embodiment of wisdom when as far as like the Triforce is concerned, and therefore trying to figure out, okay, which echo should I be using for this? How else can I use this type of echo to solve a problem besides just attacking another enemy? There were things that should have been obvious to anybody that I didn't learn for like a couple hours later than I should have. As far as like
Part of your
what
experience. It's
yeah,
fine.
what some of these enemies could have helped me do, until I just like happened upon it. I was like, man, I could have been doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
think it's just a testament to Nintendo, the developers, that like twice they were like, all right, here's a debug menu as a power, and the game
Yeah.
didn't break. Like, it's crazy.
but seriously though,
Like literally all Tears of the Kingdom is just like they gave you the debug menu, and then in this game they're like, yeah, here's the clone tool. Like that's it. Like it's
Yep.
crazy. I
it's
cannot
nice. And
believe
like
that it worked
yeah,
twice.
and I truly like I did enjoy Link's Awakening. I never played it back on the Game Boy. I did play the Switch remake last year, leading up to Tears of the Kingdom. Uh, but like as cool as the story was, I already knew what the story was before I played it,
Mhm.
and there were just like certain elements of getting through the game that were like kind of frustrating, like that I didn't understand how anybody would have known what to do without looking it up, kind of a
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Um,
My wife was a huge fan of Link's Awakening on Game Boy, so when we got it for the remake, she knew all the secret stuff. I'm like, just like,
So
how do
dope.
you do this? How do you know
yeah,
this?
Yeah.
And how did you
yeah,
know this back then?
Yeah. That's the
right.
big
There's
question, right?
something. Yeah, when I'll play a remake, or I'm like, how did I get through this
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
day? But I don't feel like this game has that problem, and I really did feel like the way that they blended in the lore that we all know and love from the series with some of the newer elements for this story specifically worked really, really well. I loved the story. I thought that it was, went in really cool directions, ways that maybe didn't expect, especially like when it first kind of like really starts to kick off. So yeah, I cannot recommend this game enough. Whether you're playing with a 4-year-old or not. Uh,
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just glad they gave Zelda another adventure besides that CDI game that came
CDI.
out.
The
So this
3.
is the first canon
Yes.
game where you're
Oh,
playing as Zelda. It's not technically the first Zelda game, but it's the first one that's actually
Yeah.
canon
yeah.
to the
Yeah.
rest of the
Good
series.
lord. Yeah. We
Yeah.
don't need to talk about those. What we do need to talk about is Chris's number 2 now.
Mm.
Number 2.
We're
Wow,
getting
we're
down
already
to it.
there.
Yeah.
So number 2 is a game that I played with my wife, and I have watched pretty much almost every playthrough that I've seen from some of the creators that I like, because this is just such a fun game. And it's the game called Thank Goodness You're Here,
Mm,
from a developer named Cole Supper, which I believe are two brothers. And they recruited, it's only $20 on Steam right now. Recruited some great voice actors, including the absolutely wonderful Matt Berry.
Matt Berry.
Uh, yeah, he plays like Gardener and I think a couple other characters in the
Oh,
game.
that's fantastic.
But he is, I mean, it is one of the tightest written games I've ever been able to play. It is so many. It's like, have you ever? I mean, obviously, some of you have watched Arrested Development, where Arrested
Mm,
Development has so many layered jokes, and you almost rewatch it, and you're like, "Oh my god, I didn't notice that joke before."
Hmm.
This is that type of game. Every moment is so cram filled with either a visual joke, a dialogue joke, or just character doing something just absolutely insane. And it's just a joy. It's a very joyful game to play because there's so many really fun moments in it. It's
How would
incredibly
you
Brit. British.
I was gonna say it's extremely British. How would you describe the gameplay of this?
The gameplay is that you are a little guy who is supposed to be finding out about a small city and what they need. I think you're supposed to sell them something. You're supposed to meet with the mayor. But you are waiting for the mayor to be open for his meeting, and you meet the rest of the townsfolk and learn about them and do little quests for them. So it's basically like, have you ever heard? I mean, obviously, people who've done improv probably have heard the "Thank Goodness You're Here" game, which is you walk into a room and the character just tells you, "Thank goodness you're here. We need to solve this problem."
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah.
so basically, you're meeting these characters, and each person is like, "Thank goodness you're here. I need this." And this guy, the first person you meet, has his hand stuck in a well, trying to get a coin or something like that. He's like, "Can you get something for me to get my arm out of this well?" And it's obviously funnier than I'm saying
Yeah.
it, but
I hope
it's
so.
the voice. Yeah, the voice acting is so funny. Um, I loved all the characters. They're so unique in each moment of the game. The art style is very cartoonish, like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Um,
Super.
but there are just so many micro. I've never seen a game have this many layered jokes and things that I notice every time I watch it or play it again, because it's just so funny. And
I
obviously Matt Berry's line deliveries are just as funny as you see in What We Do in the Shadows or anything you've seen him in. He's super funny, and there's obviously very specific British jokes as well
mhm.
that are like, if you have been watching British humor, we watched a lot of like British humor BBC shows. And it just hits my funny bone in such a perfect way that it had to be my number 2 because I can't stop thinking about the game.
That's
Even though
awesome.
it is a pretty short game, but it's just so fun. And I can't believe that 2 people could create a game like this and make it an experience for you to like, besides being like a cartoon. Like they
Mhm.
could seriously make this like one of those like Adult Swim 15-minute
Oh
cartoons
yeah.
of like 20, 30 episodes of just
Robot
random
chicken
things
kind of stuff.
happening.
Like,
Yeah. Like they could just set it in this town that they made and make this a series, and I would watch every single episode because each character is so funny.
Yeah, I had to stop watching a playthrough of it because I was like, I'm going to buy this game
Yeah.
eventually. It's too
And,
funny. Like, I don't
and
want it
as
spoiled.
mentioned, like with Indigo Park, where certain characters have relationships with others, so the town feels very lived in. There are references within the characters of the story that reference other characters that you've met throughout the town, or they'll foreshadow you meeting this character
ooh.
later in the game.
Mhm.
So I think, things like that are sometimes forgotten about in development of like a humorous game. And
Mhm.
this one just has so many little layers to it that just hit every funny bone that I have.
Yeah, it seems hilarious, and I'm like, yeah, now I'm even more intrigued to see just how insane it
Yeah.
gets,
And
like with the
it's
layers.
micro open world. You can kind of walk around
Mhm.
the environment and interact with certain characters, and some things just happen because you interacted with it, and you wouldn't have seen that happen if you didn't walk around and
Mhm.
talk to that character or whatever. And how you interact with everybody is that you slap things.
That's right.
Isn't it
So
just like you jump and you slap and that's the
yeah,
only
Mhm.
buttons? Yeah.
that's the
It
only button you have. Yeah.
That's
It's so
hilarious.
funny. I love that. Yeah, I'm excited to eventually play that. That feels like a good like springtime game.
100%. Yes.
Yeah,
One of the
that's
one of the
awesome.
first things I ever heard Matt Berry in was actually this. It's like on YouTube. It's just like Lone Wolf.
Hmm.
It's like basically it's him kind of doing one of those things where there's like an actual nature documentary, but then he's like doing the voiceover for it.
I love that.
And it's
I
That's
love
so
that.
hysterical.
funny.
It's only like a few minutes long. It's hysterical. But
Mhm.
If
anyway,
if anyone needs a Matt Berry deep cut, it's kind of a deep cut. Some people obviously know about it, but there's a show called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. It stars Matt
Huh.
Berry, Richard Iowati from the IT Crowd, a couple of other very like good British actors that are
Uh-huh.
super funny. You can find it on YouTube. It is about a horror. It is a meta narrative about a horror writer that wrote about a place called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and he was trying to make a TV show about it. So there's there's documentary style interviews with
Oh.
the actors and the writer, plus the acting that was in the actual show that they recorded.
Oh my
And
gosh.
as a person who works in television and works in
Mhm.
editing, it is one of the most perfect skewering of television production I've ever seen. So I'm
That's
just going to put
awesome.
that out there as a recommendation for people to watch.
Love it.
And if you have any editing or production background, you will love everything they put in this because it's everything that could go wrong with a production.
That's great. Okay.
Love
I
it.
will go to my number 2 now, which
Ooh.
is I had to debate this a little bit putting it on here, but the runtime of this DLC is 40 plus hours, so I
Ooh,
considered it.
all right.
Mine is Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Noise.
Elden Ring holds a very special place in my heart because it's the game that got me back into gaming after having like a years and years long slump of gaming. Went out and bought a monitor and was living with my in-laws at the time and got me back into gaming. Put about 150 hours into my first playthrough. Platinumed that thing. It's the only first platinum game I've done in forever. Absolutely love Elden Ring. Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree is more Elden Ring, which means more good. That's I don't
That's science. That's just science.
You
I
have a
don't
way with
know
words
I don't
there.
know
You know?
how else to describe it. Like they gave you quality of life updates. They introduced like 150 new weapons, 8 new weapon types, insane bosses, a story that you can actually follow. They
What?
answered some questions and gave you even more questions, which is classic FromSoft bullshit. Um,
You're not wrong.
yeah, I love everything about Shadow of the Erd Tree. Me and my brother-in-law are going to be doing a randomizer of just the DLC, which is going to be like crazy. That's been my new thing that I got into prior to Metaphor coming out. It's a good game. It's good. It's a fucking good game. Like I don't know, like it's Elden Ring. It's the same. It's even better now because they patched the bullshit final boss that I had to like ram my head against the fucking wall to beat. Now it's like actually bearable. It's fucking awesome, man. Like I've watched so many speed runs and like challenges of the DLC because it's just so captivating. It is insane. It's
You love
worth
to hear
it's $40. It's crazy. It is like
Yeah.
a whole ass new Elden Ring for $40. Like I can't believe it. Like it just makes me so excited that like whatever they do next, because I don't know if they'll do more DLC, if they'll do a sequel to Elden Ring, if they'll go back to like I don't know. I don't know what FromSoft is going to do here because I think they did an interview. They're like Elden Ring's kind of the pinnacle. Like we can't really like innovate too much more than this. And I'm like, well, you don't need to. Like just give me
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
Do it again.
Change the setting and just give me more. That's fine. Yeah. Elden Ring, I've been saying since Elden Ring came out, like Elden Ring and Bloodborne, it's like whichever one I played last is my favorite FromSoft game. And that's a lot because I have a Bloodborne tattoo. So
yeah.
like that means quite a bit. And Shadow of the Erd Tree is just a good time. It's hard as fuck though.
Yeah.
So like if you think you're hot shit, that DLC will show you are not.
you're
Real
not.
fast.
And if I'm not
Yeah.
incorrect, I think that you have to even beat certain. It's like almost the DLC is almost like a reward for
Yeah.
people who are good at the game, right? Because you
Yeah,
have to beat a certain boss before you can even
Yeah,
access.
you have to beat 2 bosses from the base
Yeah.
game. You have to beat Radon, Scar Scourge Radon, who is beatable around level like somewhere between 50 and 80, so that's doable. But then you have to beat Moog, Lord of Blood, who is like I think he gives you the second most like runes in the game for beating him.
Oh wow.
He's not the hardest boss, but you need to have like a build ready to like
Mhm.
beat him because the damage output is crazy.
It is.
And then you get to go into the DLC with a probably maxed out level, like maxed out build, maxed out sword and everything. And then the first enemy you fight is purposely put there to stomp you into the fucking ground.
As
It's like
they
a
do.
irradiated weasel or something. They're just
No,
like
it's a fucking dancer thing that's shaped like a fallopian tube with 2 blades on its arms. I'm not joking either. I am not.
No,
That is
I know you're
incredible.
not. Like I haven't seen
Yeah,
it, but I know you're not joking. That's just like on
it's
brand.
literally what it's shaped like.
That's so
And
funny.
it's crazy. Love it though.
Hello,
You can
being
also for Marvel fans out there, there's a in the DLC, if you just when you exit the starting area in the DLC and just make a right, there's a character that's based off of fucking Wolverine, which is hilarious. And
I
his
love it.
name
I
is
have seen that.
his name is Loger. So go ahead and have fun with that because he's a fucking psychopath. But
So
Love
funny.
it.
that's my number two. Jordan, what's your number two?
My number 2 is Animal Well. For a
Ooh, that's a good
long
pick.
time, this is my number 1.
shit.
Genuinely one of the most creative, clever, intricate games I've ever played. You guys were talking about what game was it you're talking about? Like where it's just with Thank Goodness You're Here, where it's just like
Hmm.
so intricate and like layered with all the jokes and stuff. But like if you just take that and translate it into just the environment, that's what Animal Well is. Like every single pixel has something that you can find basically that's what it feels like you'll be going through the environment and just the number of secrets that this man crammed into this game and the fact that everything is crammed into a 35 megabyte file.
What?
Crazy.
Not
Incredible.
joking. If you go to Steam right now and look at like the requirements for your PC, 35 megabytes of space.
That's
Insanity.
nuts.
Absolutely insane. And
Yeah.
like I mean, he'll in all the interviews that he's done, and the including with Jason, aka Video Game Donkey. It's him and his wife's production company. This is the first game that they produced. So they came on like late in the game. So obviously it was Billy Basso was the sole developer for it. But they talk a lot about how there's the first layer, so to speak, is you're doing the thing that the game shows you, like the very opening, and that there's 4 flames to find, and then that opens a thing, and then you go down into the thing, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. Credits
Mhm.
roll. That's like I got to that point after about 7.5, 8 hours, and that was like tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's entire other layers, entire other endings. There's things that I will probably never even bother doing that I know are there to be done, but either I don't have the time or the skill to do it. Um, but it's just like
Mhm.
again, it's absolutely incredible. The way that you use items in the game, both as like ways to solve puzzles, and half of them are also ways to traverse the world. Like there's a frisbee that you find that you use certain puzzles and access certain areas, but if you time it right, which is not that hard to do, if you
Mhm.
time it right, you can ride the frisbee across gaps in like water and stuff because you can't swim, and it's like he thought of everything, and
It's
it's
so cool. I'm excited to play this
absolutely
game.
yeah, it is. It's mesmerizing to see it. Um,
Yeah.
I streamed it a bit, and it was just there's so many just moments of pure delight. We're just walking in, like the environment is well rendered, and the pixel art's beautiful, and the music is like more kind of ambient minimalist, but it's cool and it like sets the vibe. And then it's just you're surprised by a kangaroo that popped out of nowhere, or you walk too close to a gap and you didn't notice that you're about to get crushed by a chinchilla, which is an achievement actually. Getting crushed by the chinchilla. So, um,
Yeah, I've heard the best thing to do with this game is just like go in completely blind. Like
oh yeah,
if there's
yeah,
somebody that recommends the game that you trust their opinion, just go play it kind of thing.
yeah. And if you don't trust my opinion yet, then this will be my final selling point for it. Because again, like a lot of these games this year, I feel like you kind of have to like play it to really experience it and see it,
Mhm.
to believe it, kind of a thing. Which always sounds cliche, but sometimes it's true. Not only did I get all the achievements on Steam, I had to
Oh
look some
shit.
stuff up. I'm not ashamed of
Yeah.
that. But like I made the effort to get all the achievements on Steam, and then I turned around and got the platinum trophy on PlayStation 5.
He did it
Oh
twice.
I
wow.
did it twice. That is how much
Dang.
I adore this game. So yeah, if
That's crazy.
nothing else has sold you on it for like what I've been talking about, then let that be a selling
I
point.
feel like that's a good enough selling point. I don't think
For
I've ever
sure.
platinum something twice.
Yeah, and again,
That's
as somebody who is a Metroidvania fiend who plays Metroid Dread a couple of times a year, who is on speedrun.com for Metroid Dread.
oh shit.
Um,
Hell yeah.
last place, but doesn't matter. I'm on there. Scoreboard. like this is of all the great Metroidvanias that have come out this year. Probably it's my favorite one from this year.
Yeah. Side note on Dread, the fact that like there's these incredible like Metroidvanias that come out every year, and like Dread just came out and was like, yeah, we still got it. It's crazy to me. Like,
Right?
Yeah.
like I thought for sure, I was like so hyped for that game, but I was like, there's a good chance that like they have been left in the dust because there's so many like innovative Metroidvanias, and that game was just like, nah, we still got it. Like that's
Seriously,
crazy.
they reminded you who Daddy was.
Whose name is in the genre title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Oh, awesome. I'm excited to play Animal Well. That'll definitely be something I get to eventually. That's a big regret for mine as well. Not getting around to that. But all right. So now we have our honorable mentions before we get to our number ones. This is going by fast, guys. This is going by
Yeah,
it is.
quick. Very quick. Um,
Thankfully for my East Coast
I know.
living.
I know.
Right.
Yeah, Chris is over there. It's like 8 o'clock, and like,
Yeah, I'm fine.
yeah, he's like, I'm chilling. It's great. This is fine. I mean, you did just get back from Japan, so you're a trooper for sure. But
He is.
Chris, would you like to start with your honorable mention? And feel
Yeah.
free to mention a couple if you have them. That's totally fine
Oh
too.
man, it was really hard to pick between some of the games that I played just because I like I said earlier, I think it's funny, but Duck Detective was really fun. I can't make that. I couldn't make it part of the thing, but it was very good. There was a Fears to Fathom game that came out that was very good, very good episodic indie horror. But the one that I kept going back to, and it wouldn't be a typical one that I can put in a top 5 because it's a racer puzzle platformer. It's a very interesting like genre of puzzle platformer. One that I didn't realize that I would get addicted to because I'm just a person who gets addicted to like I'm not very good at games, but I love getting achievements in games that require a little bit of like skill, and I love playing driving games.
Mm-hmm.
So this game hit all of those buttons. Much like a game that I may have mentioned last year, which was oh my god, I'm blanking on the name right now and it's gonna kill me. Cut all this out.
No.
Words are
Oh
hard.
man, words are hard. I can't remember the name of the game. Anyway, the game that I mentioned this year is What the Car
Oh my
by a
god.
developer named Triband, which is as I said, racer puzzle platformer where you are a car that you just need to figure out how fast you can get to the finish line, and every single time you launch a level, it's a different ability. You're either a car with legs, you're a car with too many legs, you're a car with a rocket, a car with a spring, all kinds of different things. The levels are laid out really nice. It's a really funny game because the people that are the helpers that are helping you out are these little bear characters that you can knock off the map as well. And it's just really fun platforming. It's really cool to discover some of the there's not a lot of secrets, but there's little secret things you can find in the level. You get a little portrait at the end. The gameplay is really funny because every single time you launch a game, like I said, you get a different ability, but the way that the game like displays what the ability is really funny every time. And for me, it's just addicting to try to get the gold or like the best time every single time. It's like there's a crown thing, so if you finish it in a certain amount of time, you only get like the bronze crown, silver crown, gold crown, that sort of thing. And if you get the extra picture, you get like a red crown for every level or something like that. So I just love this type of game. It's much like, and I just thought of the name, You Suck at Parking, which was the game I was obsessed with. So it's one of those. This is one of those games. It's not going to be a story thing because the story is whatever. Like you stumble upon these bears and you're now a car and you're having fun doing this stuff. It's not a story.
You're never a car with wheels, worth noting.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just a really fun, challenging experience. It's very addicting. very much enjoyed playing it. I was very lucky that they reached out to me to.
Mm.
I'll say they did
Oh,
reach
that's
out to me
right.
to play the demo and all that stuff, and I got one of my clips posted on the devs page, which I thought was really nice of them
Yeah.
to do that for me.
For sure.
But it was because I just had so much fun playing the game, and not because of any sort of like sponsorship thing for them. But I just genuinely loved playing this game. So every single time I launched it, I was like, this is going to be a couple of hours of me
Yeah.
trying to get the best best time or best thing out of this level.
Did you ever play What the Golf?
No, but it is on my list. I've
It's
heard that one's really, really
so
fun.
good.
Is it the same
I
people?
It's the
Yeah.
same people.
Okay.
It is so good. It's a platformer where you play as a golf ball basically, and like literally the second level, the first level is just like a normal mini golf thing, and the second level you go to pull back to like swing your club, and your character gets launched instead of the ball.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It is.
They have a really good track record of subverting expectations
Yes,
of what
that's a
you can
perfect
do.
way
I
of
like that.
describing that developer. Awesome. I'm surprised. Chris, I'm surprised I know as many games on your list as last year. I had like no fucking idea. This year I think I'm like 3 for 5 so far.
Nice.
It's crazy. Okay. My honorable mentions. I have a list of 3, but I'm only going to talk about one. And like it's crazy because last year I want to make an amendment from our episode last year. None of us played Baldur's Gate 3. I fucking love Baldur's Gate 3. I
There it
have
is.
played it so many fucking times, but that's not my honorable mention because it gets enough love.
Okay.
It gets enough love. What my honorable mention is Tokimeki Memorial Forever With You, the original
Ooh.
dating simulator from 1997. That game is the reason why, like, if you've ever played a game that has like any kind of dating sim or social structure in it, like either if it's a Mass Effect or Baldur's Gate or Persona or Fire Emblem or anything like that, it's literally plucked straight from fucking Tokimeki Memorial. There is a 6-hour video by Tim Rogers on I think it's the Action Button uh, YouTube channel all about this game and how good it is. And it is such a good watch. Basically, you're just a high school kid trying to date the prettiest girl in school, but you just make choices. What do I want to work on this week? Do I want to work on my, physical activity? Do I want to study? Do I want to do art? Do I want to go, do I want to look in the mirror and brush my hair for a week and improve my looks, all that kind of stuff?
I tried that once. It didn't work.
It didn't work. And basically what happens is you make that choice, you do it, and then it's like, okay. And then random events will happen where it's like, oh, you met this girl. Oh, you got this girl's number. Oh, let's like hang out. And you make these connections with these girls in a very like real way instead of just being like, it's completely random. Instead of just being like, it's November 20th, like you're going to meet this girl, right? It's like, no, like there's times I've played through the game, and worth noting, you can play through like one playthrough in like 4 or 5 hours. So it's pretty nice. It's over 3 years of like actual gameplay, but it's 1 week at a time.
Mhm.
So it's not that many, and it's just making decisions. You just make choices. There's no stress. You do have to manage like there's a weird bomb mechanic, which that's why I recommend watching that Tim Rogers video because it's a Japanese only game, and it was translated from the SNES version. Currently, they're working on a translation for the PlayStation version of the second game, which I heard is phenomenal. But the big reason I wanted to mention this game is because there's a remake of it coming out, but it's only in Japan, which is very frustrating because it looks incredible. But what I am hopeful for is that I'm kind of cheating because we're going to have a most anticipated game section as well. But I didn't want to put this on my most anticipated game because I might not ever be able to play it. But if it goes on Steam, there's a higher chance that people can translate it quicker, which would be great. But yeah, it's a great game. It's like go find a fucking ROM hack of it. I play it on a little handheld that's the size of a Game Boy, and it's phenomenal to play it on like that. And it's just a cute game. Like if you're interested, if you've ever liked a romance style part of like a video game, which all of us have, whether you want to admit it or not, because I know how many fucking Mass Effect players there are. So that's a dating sim. That is a dating sim in space with guns. I don't want to hear anything else about it. Go check out Tokimeki Memorial. You'll instantly be like, wow, there's a lot of shit that people have pulled from this. But very cool game. I just want to give it its flowers.
Give them.
Right.
Very cool.
Jordan, what do you got?
Well, for the second year in a row on this show, I'm going to be talking about Sea of Stars.
Hell yeah.
So not only did I go back this year and get the Platinum Trophy on PS5 for it, it's also the year that the limited edition physical copies came out through IM8-bit. That had like some alternate art, slip covers, some stickers, like a double-sided poster, like an actual instruction manual, like a physical instruction manual. Just absolutely gorgeous stuff. And there was also the official art book from the artist Bryce Coe, and it actually has like literal transcription of his conversations with the game's director about like how they wanted the characters, like the direction of the characters to go, or like, oh, well, I tried this for the first time, and then we got some feedback, and he wanted it to be more like aggressive or less aggressive, or things like that. There's actual like excerpts of conversations, as well as his like present day commentary on stuff. It's just like, not only is it just a book full of stunning artwork, but it actually has some fun behind the scenes stuff as well. So all of that would be enough reason to talk about it again. But on top of that, just yesterday as a recording, so November 12th is when it came out, is the Dawn of Equinox is what they called the update. And it came with, what all was it? There's now local 3-player co-op. There is a revamped prologue where instead of starting the game as, Solstice Warriors and then having a flashback to like 10 years prior, the game just starts you off and does the combat tutorial with you as kids, like playing with a training dummy with Garl and in your little secret hideout. Garl! Best Boy 2023. We're bringing up the best boys again. So there's that. There's also I haven't gotten to it yet because it's like probably a midpoint in the game, but there's going to be like new animations that they worked on, like for cutscenes that they thought would have been like like meaningful stuff that they wish they had gotten to do for the initial release, but didn't get around to it. And all of this is for free.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I forgot it was free.
Crazy.
When you said it just came out yesterday for free, I was like, as a download, I was like, as an update, I was like, are you kidding me? I forgot it was free.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Absolutely insane. And there's even like new combat mechanics now. Like there's difficulty mechanics that you can switch around as well as combat mechanics. So the new combat one is that's like you see it in games like the Octopath Traveler games did this, where instead of in the base game of Sea of Stars, where it will just show you what the enemy's weakness is, now it's like hidden until you try it once, and then it'll show you like, oh, so you hit it with the blunt attack, and that actually is a lock, and now it's less or whatever. Yeah, so now there's like you can toggle that on and off, which again is very common.
Yeah, there's tons of accessibility stuff in that game.
Yeah, they added a bunch of accessibility. And if that wasn't enough, the major DLC is coming out in the spring of next year, which is also going to be free.
Yeah.
So
nuts.
just expect me to talk about this game for 3 years in a row.
Well, they're doing it right though. Like that's the thing is like the reason people are still talking about Baldur's Gate 3 is because like they've been coming out with content updates for a year.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, this is our last major patch. And then like 2 months later, they're like, actually, here's another thing. And it's all been free, right? Like, I think it's crazy that they're not charging like $15 for the DLC next year.
Because I'd pay it like in a heartbeat.
Right. Like I've
already bought the game twice.
Yeah, that's crazy. That I never actually ended up finishing that game just because I started playing Baldur's Gate 3. But I will go back, and like the fact that there's going to be all this stuff waiting for me is like crazy. Like,
and if you for those of you who have beat the game, and if you want to hear me and some friends talk about it for an extended period of time, I did have the distinction, the honor of going onto JK Games podcast to do like a deep
Nice.
dive into the full story spoilers, full all that kind of stuff. Not like right off the bat, but there's a certain point where we
Right.
say everything's fair game. So
Mhm.
that was an absolute blast. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. JK Games is a very cool podcast. Lots of cool podcast shout outs. Look how far our group has come.
Yeah.
All these outreaching, all this talks and connections and all that stuff. It's good. It's good stuff. It shows how far we've come.
It does. And just to be, sappy I cannot believe that, September-ish of last year, I put up a Sea of Stars video essay. And like from there, I've gotten to meet you guys and I've gotten to meet, and be on content with JK Games and Spotlight Games. And like all of you people are just like these amazing human beings that I'm like so happy to get to know. So it's like, it's crazy.
It's been a
the
great
internet
time.
is a fun place sometimes. It's not all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we make our own.
It's
little
mostly
corners.
bad.
Yeah,
but it's not all bad.
we make our own little corners that are good.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So is that it? Are we about to go into our number ones?
Well, are we doing
so.
most anticipated first, or are we doing number one first?
No, we can do that at the end after everything's done. I think.
Okay.
Right, that makes sense. We're done with 2024. We're going to go into 2025, which is crazy. Time doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, right.
There's a meme of the shark, right, where it's like me still trying to process 2020,
right?
And like,
yep.
The shark we're 2 months away from 2025. Like, oh shit,
right?
Yeah, Chris, please honor us with your number one.
All right, I'll start it off for my number one this year, and it probably won't be a surprise for people that have listened to me talk about games this year or watched some of the playthroughs that I did and stuff like that. But my number one is a game called Still Wakes the Deep, developed by the Chinese Room. It is kind of expensive game for my standards, at least. It's a $35 game. It's about a 6 to 8 hour experience, I think.
On Game Pass.
On Game Pass. Just some of the most incredible voice acting and writing that I've had the privilege of experiencing this year. You are an oil rig worker, a new oil rig worker on the North Sea. You are incredibly Scottish. So some of the there is actually like in the options, much like in Thank Goodness You're Here, there's options for subtitles where it says, do you want the English translation for a normal English speaker, or do you want the translations in the English Scottish that they're speaking? And I'm so glad I did English for Americans, because some of the slangs that they used, I would not have figured out, obviously.
I had no idea that was an aspect of it. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I heard about that. That's hilarious to me.
So there are terms that they use that just we don't use out here. But man, so you're an oil rig worker. You were out there because of something that happened in your past that you're kind of running away from. And basically you're on this oil rig when something supernatural happens. It's essentially, they said they based a lot of the story and supernatural part of it off of The Thing and a couple of other monster type movies. But something starts happening and you just start having to crawl your way through and try to survive. There's elements of stealth gameplay in there. There's just a little bit of 3D platforming, but mostly this is just one of the most well acted games I've ever played by voice actors and just the motion capture that they've done.
Yeah, I wanted to play this with my wife, and I showed her the trailer,
Yeah.
and she was like, absolutely not, because it looks so scary.
It does look a little scary. Then there's parts of it probably that will be pretty scary, especially the parts where you're either being chased or doing the stealth and all that type of, very tense.
The atmosphere is insane.
Yeah.
Oil rigs are just creepy in general.
And the North Sea, just if you've been on that part of TikTok, the North Sea is frightening, right? Like being that isolated out there on an oil rig just makes you feel that much more tense about anything that's going on.
I believe
but
it.
Yeah, the characters are so wonderfully written. The relationships you have with these characters, whether good or bad, are very, very realistic and very it's just they make sense. The friendships that you have, you care about a lot of these characters. So when certain things happen, you're emotionally compromised. I think once things happen, there. I don't say this as a brag on myself, but I don't typically cry watching narratives, right? I don't watch. I don't. There's not a ton of movies that move me to that extent of actually having a tear come down my eye. I'll get choked up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only game that I've played in recent memory that I was very, very close to being like really emotionally compromised whilst playing a game live on
Wow.
Twitch. Because there's a moment that happens and that just breaks my heart to hear. And then the ending was just so well, like the way that the characters talk to each other in some of the moments is just so real. And so they don't make any character do any. There's some long monologues, but they don't make anyone do anything that's out of character, right? There's not a weird like monologue where this character is suddenly making a long speech about something. Everything makes sense and makes sense conversationally.
Like natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very natural.
Not theatrical, where it's like,
yeah.
now it's my turn to monologue at you.
Exactly.
So listen
like,
as I tell you my tale.
Yeah.
They just did a good job. Like they hired amazing voice actors. They clearly cared about how to present the story part of it. And I think that it just came together so beautifully. And I don't think I could have experienced it another way. Besides being in this gameplay form, because I think it would have if this was like a movie and I was watching, I'd probably either get too scared or like whatever and check out a little bit. But being part of it and being interactive with the story and being actively involved in it really helped out, and it was just so wonderfully done.
That's
and
awesome.
some of the visuals
You recommended this
so
game
good.
to me. Yeah, you recommended this game to me, and you talking about it now, I'm like, okay, now I have to push through that initial layer of fear that I have as a scared man baby, and just push through to enjoy it, and then maybe force Jess to play it as well, and then we'll bring you on for another episode, because if it's your number one game, I have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games, the rare one for me that I was that emotionally involved.
Yeah,
because there's two moments, right? There's a moment in near the end of the game, and then there's a moment right at the end of the game in the epilogue. That just a set of dialogue or set of situations that they set up really well throughout the game, and then it pays off in such an emotional way once you get to the ultimate ending of the narrative. That they just delivered.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
That was the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me, except of coming close to crying. I was just full on sobbing for the entirety of The Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine. So
incredible. Yeah, that is high praise. And your list is very different from last year, Chris. Your number one game last year was Last Train Out of Wormtown. So you've come very far from
Wormtown.
But you've come straight out of Wormtown.
He took the Last Train Out of Wormtown.
He really did. Yeah, that's awesome. Now that has shot up my list. This backlog. This is what I was talking about. Mentioned earlier in the podcast. There's too many fucking games.
There's a lot of games.
Too many.
And a lot of really good games.
Stop making them.
Stop. Just make good games. Stop making shit. It's just that simple. Just do it good. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, here goes my number one. It's obviously Concord. That's my number. No. God, I need to do a whole episode about Concord. It's crazy.
I do feel bad. Like from what I understand, like everyone who truly played it was like, yeah, this is a well done game. And then it just like didn't get a chance to actually like thrive. But anyway.
On to positive news. My number one, shocking to everyone, is Metaphor Refantasio.
I am shocked.
So shocked.
What
Everyone
do
is
you mean?
absolutely shocked. It's not like I haven't mentioned it 17 times leading up to this. Metaphor Refantasio is basically, it's fantasy Persona in structure, but they've simplified mechanics. They've simplified leveling up. They've simplified the party system. They've simplified everything, but still kept the like Atlas developer like style to it. The fact that like the music is sung in a different language that is a I forget exactly what it's called, but it is a language from ancient times that was developed to be a universal language. Which the word refantasio is just that language's word for fantasy. And like it's crazy. Like there's so many details that's like under the surface that you wouldn't even need to know, but the more
That's
you
some
find out
Tolkien
about the
stuff,
game,
man.
yeah, you're like, oh my
Mhm.
god. But if Persona 3 is a game about loss, this game is a game about failure. Like everyone you meet is a failure in some way, except they didn't fail, right? It's like a misunderstanding, or this failure led to a new success or a new opportunity or a thing like that.
Mm.
And it's a game about connecting with every kind of people that are out there. Your party is like the world of metaphor is there's 8 tribes that are each different races, all distinct in their own looks and population size and all that. And you play you play one of the ninth races, which is the Elda. And you basically just look like a fucking human ass human. Like there's nothing cool about you except you have 2 different colored eyes. And that's it. But like everyone treats you like shit because they're like it's just like the most obvious form of like racism as an allegory. Every race is like
Right.
there's a literal hierarchy, to the point of like, there's these people that live a long life and they're basically in charge of everything. There's these people that are really strong, so they're in charge of the military. And like each race has their own different things, but throughout your journey, you're basically just meeting these races, being a normal person, like all that stuff very early on. It's literally before you get to the start screen, they show you this, so it's not really a spoiler. This asshole named Luis kills the king, which spirals the whole fucking country because recently the son of the king, the prince, died as well. So now there's this vacuum of power, a power vacuum that happens to like kind of like what's the fucking next thing. And basically that leads to a journey of finding the next king, whether that be Luis or somebody else or somebody from the church. And you find out corruption, and you find out like it's the most basic, honestly generic fantasy story. And then they just like put a spin on something at every step, and you're like, ooh, that's new, that's fresh, I like that. Right? Like what I just told you, it's regicide. That's just classic fantasy trope. But then they make it so that there's a magic that forces people to vote with their minds, so they don't have a choice not to vote. If they support this person, that person gets their vote. And if I go and have a conversation with them and be like, oh, actually, you should vote for this person, and it changes their mind, they vote for that person. It's like an instantaneous thing. And based on after like however many months, I think it's like 4 months, whoever has the most support by the end becomes the new king, and that's it. And it's like that's a crazy concept for like
Yeah.
there's everyone votes and you can't do anything about it because they're a person. Like no one is no, like including kids, right? It's like everyone has an equal say in this. But this is the entry point if you are at all interested in Persona games, like in the Persona style of game, because there's less the story is much easier to digest because fantasy is just kind of easier for people to get along with. You play as an adult, so you're not a teenager, which can sometimes be a barrier for some people. The combat is way simpler. There's not 100 personas. There's like 25 archetypes, and they all kind of function in similar ways. Like there's one called a gunner. You can kind of figure out what that one does, right?
Heavy melee
There's a
attack.
healer. There's a knight. Like they're very simple concepts, and you can level those archetypes up, and you can mix and match their skills, and you can put them on multiple people. That's a big thing because Persona, in Persona, your main character can control any persona they want, but your party members are locked to their persona. Whereas in this, archetypes can be put on anybody. So I can just mix and match skills and affinities and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like that part of the game is so fun. And this isn't even talking about the look and the style. Like go look at any screenshot of any menu of this game and just be like, how did they do this? Right? Like how did they think of this? And because they know This is an RPG. This is a JRPG. You're going to be staring at menus a lot, so they better look appealing, and they are. Like, they are so nice to look at. And that's the other thing is, like, you know how sometimes when you press a button to do something, there's like a buffer, and so you got to wait, and you got to wait, and you got to wait for like the menus to pop up. If you're fast in this game, there's no buffering. If I press a button, if I press like, so I know I'm going to do this attack to hit this weakness, and I'm aiming at this guy. That's 3 button presses. If I hit 3 button presses really quickly, it just does it. Like, there's no like, gotta go to the next thing, gotta go to that. And if you feel like it borders on a fucking action RPG if you get into a like flow state. It's crazy. But yeah, the characters are super good. I can't express enough how much I love like some of these characters and like how quickly you can attach to them. And one of the biggest things that I will say that Persona needs to do moving forward is the way you level up your, I'm just going to call them social links. They're your followers, but social links is kind of like, that's the Persona term. In Persona, you have to kind of choose the right thing to say to get the most like social points to level them up to the next thing. And if you mess up, you can reload or you'd have to hang out with them again, which kind of waste a day in Persona, which are very valuable. In this game, if it says they're ready to level up, they're ready to level up. Then when you go in, you still get to choose dialogue. But if you choose the right thing, you get like a secondary currency that's used to level up your archetypes. But if you don't, it's no big deal. You just didn't get the bonus thing. So it still levels up.
Like that.
And so literally before this game came out, I was like, I want to play Persona 5 with my wife, but I'm going to mod it so that every time I hang out with somebody, they level up each time. And I don't have to worry about choosing the, like looking up the guide to be like, oh, pick this thing. Literally, that's just what Metaphor did. Like, they were like, oh, that's a good idea. Crazy. Like, I was like, this is nuts that they just were like, yeah, let's take out this little annoyance thing. So now you can actually role play, right? I can choose the thing that I think I would say, even if I don't think it's the right answer for that person at that time, right? And it makes it so much faster. Like, I have maxed out characters already, like maxed out social links on like half of the cast. And I'm like, there's like 15 of them or something like that. And I'm like, this is crazy. I don't usually start maxing out people in Persona games until like the last couple months. And like this game is just like, no, you're good. You're crushing it. You're hanging out with people. That's all you need to do. And I'm like, this is great. I love everything about it.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Literally, that's what it feels like. And I cannot wait. Like, after I beat 1,000 Times Resist, when I was getting close to the end of that game, I was like so excited because I was like, okay, this was a nice break from Metaphor, but I'm so excited to get back into Metaphor. And that's what I'm going to do this weekend. My wife's going to a party. I'm going to take down the government. That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, Metaphor would be fantastic.
Sounds like a great weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. Yeah, I think everyone should play it. Speaking of demos, there's a demo. You can play like 15 hours of this game. Like, it's crazy, and it transfers over. And if you don't know by the time you get your third party member, like that you don't like that you like this game or not, like, yeah, who cares? You spent no money. It's free.
Yeah.
So go play that demo. It's great. All right. That's been bubbling in my chest for like and you'll get to hear more because I will be on Spotlight Games some point in the future to talk about this game.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Once we've all beat it, we're going to talk about it completely. So that'll be fun. But Jordan, bring us home. What is the final number one game of 2024?
My number one game is Neva.
Yeah.
Ooh, there you go.
Like, from the very first moments of that, it's the kind of game where the first moment you're like, yep, this is going to be something special.
Mm-hmm.
And what I jotted down in my little notes that I will elaborate on momentarily is that, like, my love for this game reminds me of my love for Tears of the Kingdom. Because in both cases, they stand on their own, like, as excellent games just in general.
Yeah.
But there's this whole other layer of knowing what came before that makes it even more special. Because not everybody was a fan of Grease. I loved it. I've played through it a couple of different, at least twice.
Very short, right?
It's like another like 4 or 5 hours. Which Neva is as well. They're about the same length. I forget which one's like one's like slightly longer, but they're both again like less than 6 hours if you're just trying to play through the game once. And I mean, Grease is one of the games where I saw a trailer for it and I was like, this is a Jordan game. I'm gonna get this, and then I got it and I loved it. Neva makes Grease look like a proof of concept. It makes it
Oh
look like a
shit.
tech demo. Like the degree to which Neva just takes my breath away from like every single moment of this game is like it's hard to even like put into words and even like describe it to people. Um I forget the artist's name who was like behind both of them, but it's just like very watercolor painterly style, and it was used to great effect for Grease and like the story that it was telling there. But like just the way that they develop and like evolve that into a story that's Grease is more abstract in the sense that it's kind of representing stages of grief and things like that, but Neva takes place within nature, and it's a story of like kind of corruption or decay, and also renewal. Which somebody should do a video essay about that and put it on a
Yeah.
YouTube channel. It'd
Where
be
would you find that? I wonder.
youtube.com/@cognitive-clips. But like, and so the art evolved with it to where there's these just absolutely stunning layers of this watercolor style with trees with leaves that are changing colors and like little small waterfalls, and like there's wildlife in the foreground and the background and like all this stuff, and all along the way there's this little wolf cub Neva that's growing alongside you as the seasons change, and like um watching that relationship develop, and like you're calling for her and you're like soothing her after she like gets hurt from these enemies and everything else, and it's like it's just so like everything about it just works on so many levels, and like um as many people assume just based on trailers and seeing that you're with an animal and things like that, like it is going to tug at your heartstrings. Like that's not a secret.
Yeah.
They were never trying to hide that fact that it's going to tug at your heartstrings. In my professional opinion, I feel like it is done in a great way. I feel like it's not cheapened. It's they really develop the relationship with the with Neva as the game goes along, and it's not just like obviously games like The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part Two, like they have their place in the gaming history and gaming canon and whatever. It's that type of story has its place where you are just getting beat down and kicked and just left in a pit of despair as a credits roll. That kind of a story
Right.
has its place. This is not that kind of story.
Hmm.
Even if your heartstrings do get tugged, like it's not just like all is lost kind of a situation. Without spoiling anything that actually happens. I just will say that there is no, it's not like a pit of despair sort of a story. So don't worry about that. But like, and on top of all that, Berlinist is the name of the composer. I think it might be a group. I can't remember honestly. He, she, or they did the music for Grease, which was phenomenal. I forgot. I played this game last year called Worldless, which was this like really stylistic Metroidvania that Berlinist apparently did the music for as well. It was cool because the music was great from that game too. But
That was the
they
like psychedelic
yes,
one, right? I never played that, but I remember seeing a trailer for that and being like, "What in the world is
it's
this?"
real cool. It's like it's one of those like $20 kind of games too. So definitely
Mm.
give that a shot. But yeah, the score is incredible. I am either thinking about the music every day or literally listening to the soundtrack every day. Like
That's awesome.
it's one of those kind of situations.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's just everything about it. I just can't get enough of. So many moments. It's just like I was just like staring and like jaw dropped on the floor. Just how beautiful the game was. Loved how they evolved the puzzle solving heavy side of Grease to actually having combat mixed in with the puzzles and things like that. That was very competently done. Even if there were you mess up the puzzle or you die to the combat, like it's almost reminds you of Celeste in the sense of like how closely it just drops you right back into right next to where you were, so you can try it again. It's not one of those like, oh, gotta start the whole level again, and you just lost
Yeah.
30 minutes of progress or anything like that. And it is divided up into the chapters after the fact too, or even in the middle of the fact, probably where
Mhm.
if you did miss a collectible that you do want to go back for, or you do want to just replay a section because it was so stunning or whatever, you can do that. And as I've mentioned for a couple of games in this list, I did go back and look up a couple of things and go back and get all the achievements on Steam, and I do plan on doing it again on PS5 at some point when I have another spare 20 or 25 to spend, because
Perfect.
Man.
I just my Steam review was like short and sweet, and I said something to the extent of, this was a perfect experience.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care that that's not supposed to be attainable or like possible, whatever. Like that's just what they set out to do, and what I experienced was exactly what it was supposed to be. So
Yeah.
cannot recommend this game enough.
What a year, man. What a year of
Seriously.
games.
So many good games.
Yeah, I saw in, I don't know which Discord I was in, but somebody was talking about where it was going to be like, they felt like there wasn't a clear number one game. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think there is, but I think you place any of these games in a year, like any random year, and
Yeah.
they'd be contenders. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there isn't a Baldur's Gate, but maybe it's because last year there was only like 2 or 3 games that were, the
Yeah.
big games, right? There was Legend of Zelda, there was Baldur's Gate, and then there was like maybe 1 or 2 others, but this year is just stacked, man. Like,
Yeah.
every single game that was listed on here, like, I know of or I've heard of or I've played. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because last year, guys, our lists were all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our lists are, I think they would kick the shit out of our list last year. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy how much better these games are than last year. And those games were good. Like, the games last year were good, but looking at these lists, I'm like, this is crazy. These are so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, I felt more passionate about this year, way more than last year.
Oh, for sure. I think that as well about the games that I put on the list this year.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like I played any more games than normal. Jordan,
Mhm.
you probably played like less games. You didn't hit your like 50 mark that you normally do.
I did not hit 50. I actually so last year, I think that, well, if I'm talking about games that came out in the actual calendar year,
Yeah.
I think I played 17 or 18 last year from 2023, and this year I've played like a couple, like 1 or 2 more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and then
crazy.
again, in addition to replaying things like the Metroid series, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
replaying Grease again.
that's a movie for you, basically. Like, if you're speedrunning those games, that's like one afternoon, basically.
Oh, I could run through Metroid Dread in the time it takes you to watch the Batman. So
That's crazy.
Nice.
Man.
Nice.
But yeah, what a year. But what are we looking forward to? Right?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Chris, do you have one for most anticipated game of 2025?
I do. I have a lot.
Straight out of Wormtown 3.
Yeah, right.
They skipped
I have
2.
a lot. I have a lot of games I'm looking forward to, just because there's just so many things that are coming out still. I had a bunch of little games that I tried demos of that I'm still waiting to see, including friggin' the Mouse PI for Hire, which I thought
Oh my
looks
god, that looks
incredible.
so good.
There's a game
that's
called
insane.
Subliminal that's coming out. That's a kind of a um, liminal spaces type of
Mhm.
like escape room game. And then there's also this game called Wagon, which kind of plays with the whole. It kind of feels like Oregon Trail, but you're playing Inscription.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
it's a very
Wait.
interesting combination of
Inscription
things.
kicks ass. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And I'll mention one more before I mention the actual one, is Normal Fishing, which is a game that says it's normal fishing, but it's also a meta narrative about a game that was unreleased and buggy and has some horror elements to it.
Ooh.
A lot of little things. The one that I'm most excited about is a game called Reanimal, which is
Hmm.
Ooh,
from the
yes, yeah.
original developers of Little Nightmares 1 and 2.
Ooh.
Little Nightmares 1 and 2 have now been sold off to, I think, Ubisoft.
Oh really?
And another developer is now is the developer of Little Nightmares 3, which looks good on its own.
Mhm.
But Reanimal is, the trailers have been incredible. And
shit.
those developers are so good at what they do. They have a really good eye for scale and massive structures
Yeah.
compared to a small character. And the way that this one looks is, first of all, terrifying, but also just so well designed for this group. And they clearly have they must have had a new idea come up that they wanted to do that they couldn't do under the Little Nightmares title, but with the same type of spirit that they had for the Little Nightmares stuff that they were doing.
Yeah, it looks
So
terrifying.
yeah, some of
Looks eldritch.
Yeah, it looks some of the enemies look absolutely horrifying. I'm so excited to play whatever these guys do. I've been waiting for this group to make something again for a long time. So I'm very excited to see Reanimal in the coming future.
You educated me. I had no idea that the Little Nightmares series got bought off. I love that series.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. Well,
Everything
I
has been
added
bought
that
and
while you were
sold in this
talking. I added
industry.
that to my wish list. So that
Yeah.
is that looks awesome. Okay, well, my most anticipated game is a game that is just a bunch of old games, but for
All
a
right.
very important reason. Mine is the Capcom Fighting Collection 2.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
So, this game, I will save the last two for the main reason that I'm anticipating this game. But it includes the Capcom versus SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro, Capcom versus SNK 2, Mark of the Millennium 2001, Project Justice, which is I believe, a spin-off game of Street Fighter. I forget exactly the 90s were so weird for Japanese development where they'd just be like, yeah, let's just change
Yeah.
the name for the US. Um, Capcom Fighting Evolution. I don't honestly know what that one is, but I'm excited to find out. Street Fighter Alpha 3, of course, that's a good one. Plasma Sword. I have no idea what that is. That'll be fun. But the main reason that I'm most excited for this is they're fucking re-releasing Power Stone 1 and 2.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Those games were like my childhood on Dreamcast.
They were so fun.
So fun. One of the best multiplayer. I don't know why it hasn't, because it's like Smash Bros, but it's in that isometric view, and then the camera can change, and there's items and all this, and there's fun characters, and there's supers and all this, and there's like mini games and all. Like, I don't know why this wasn't a continued product, because it's clearly a market, right? Like, Power Stone is just like the Party Animals game, but like, with cooler characters, right? It's not jokey.
Yeah.
But it's still funny. Like, I still hit somebody with a fucking bubble gun and they float up in the air, and then I fucking drop kick them, right? Like, there's a guy there's a cook that just turns into a fucking dinosaur. Like, that's his super.
Love that.
Like, there's so
It's like-
many cool things, and I'm just so excited to like force people when they come over to my house and be like, take this controller, we're playing Power Stone. Because the story's fun too. And I'm excited. I am like, anytime one of these fucking games from my Dreamcast childhood gets another chance at life, I am so excited. Like, literally the other day, there was a report that the Jet Set Radio license on Steam was going to get, and so you best believe I went and bought every Dreamcast game on Steam because it was like $30 fucking dollars, and I was like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I will take my bass fishing. I will take my Jet Set Radio. I'll take my Crazy Taxi, and I'll take my Space Channel 5. Thank you very much.
Good day, sir.
Yes.
Good
So that's
day.
my most anticipated game. Obviously, it'll be fun to dive into all those other old fighting games, but Power Stone is like, I'm so excited.
That sounds great.
All right, Jordan, finish us off here.
Yeah. I have to give an honorable mention, most anticipated, to Judas. That looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
That's the one from Ken Levine, the BioShock director. They had like a big preview event for some of the outlets back over the summer, I think, and it seems to be just fantastic. But shocking, both of you, shocking all the listeners, shocking anyone who knows me. My most anticipated is going to be Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I have been waiting for this game for longer than I've been a father. They literally announced the game back in 2016.
I feel like it was like 28. Oh, I feel like it was after the Switch came out, so it was like 2018. But it was like so soon after the Switch came out they announced this, and it's just been vaporware since then.
Well, it was I think 2 years later, they came out in like one of the January directs and were like,
Mhm.
"Hey, we have an update. We're starting over.
Yep.
Sorry."
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But just like they dropped that reveal during Summer Game, like whatever Nintendo's side show to Summer Games Fest was this year, and I just like lost it. It just looks so good. Um, they've already proven themselves 3 times over with how well they can handle the franchise. So I just cannot wait to get my hands on it. I have to believe that it's going to have some sort of upscaling or something or else for the Switch successor. That's also coming out next year, but it's going to be on the current hardware too, which is good for everybody. So,
Okay. I
um,
looked it up. The initial reveal of Metroid Prime 4 was June 13th, 2017.
Yep.
That's a couple months after the Switch came out. So
Yeah.
we've been waiting the entire lifetime of the Switch, basically.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wild.
And then they just like
This,
shadow dropped the remaster of Metroid Prime last year, and it's like the best looking game on the Switch.
yeah.
It's just a
Dude, every
remaster of
time
a
Nintendo does
GameCube
that,
game.
I'm like, they are wizards. Right? I don't understand how
Seriously,
they get
like-
anything else extra out of the Switch and they keep doing it.
Yeah.
I
So,
said that
like-
last year. I think I said that last year. That they're fucking wizards. I think I said that
Yeah.
about Tears of the Kingdom because I was like, this makes no sense. Like I had
Yeah,
barely
yeah,
any
'cause
hiccups.
you guys said something about like the loading times were insane for that game because
Yeah.
there was no real. It was like seamless going from one
No, it's
land to the
it's
next.
stupid.
It always has been. Like they,
Yeah.
they disguise the loading with the elevator rides,
Yeah.
and like
Mhm.
sometimes like you shoot the door and it takes a couple seconds to open, but there never is a loading screen aside from when you just
Yeah.
start up the
So
game.
wild.
Like it really is, and like they, it just really speaks to Nintendo's emphasis on like more of an art style versus like having the best looking processor, the best looking
Yeah.
graphics,
Oh, yeah.
software, whatever. Because even if like you can go back and play the GameCube version and it still looks good.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a little bit choppy and it's you can see some pixels, but like it still looks good and it still runs well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even for like a game that came out in 2001. So like yeah,
So, Mr. Metroidvania, I have a question.
I have an
What
answer.
comes out first, Prime 4 or Silk Song? You're suffering, dude. You're suffering.
I listen. I adore Hollow Knight. I think Hollow Knight's fantastic. I can't wait to play Silk Song, but I'm still eating good.
Yeah, you are.
Just
No, you're
this
fine.
year, just to round us off here, we had Prince Persia: Lost Crown, we had Animal Well, we had Tales of Kenzera Zao, which was not great, but still,
Exists.
serviceable. We had Nine Souls, which is incredible. We had Bow Path of the Teal Lotus. Like we had so many. Oh, Ultros,
Mhm.
really trippy acid trip, but very cool. Like we had a lot of Metroidvanias this year.
Yeah.
So we're
No,
still
you're
eating
eating good, but those two I know you're dying for.
Yeah, if you
I
had to
don't
make me,
believe Silk Song's real. I
I
like
think you said that before. Where it's
I don't think that's my conspiracy theory. I don't think it's real. I think it's fake, and I think they every once in a while come out with like one thing that's like gets them funding for like another couple of years, and I think it's just like at this point money laundering or something.
I
like,
feel like that's what it's like being a fan of Stardew Valley and wanting Haunted Chocolatier to come out.
oh my god,
Is
I
because
know.
he is updating Stardew Valley still to this
Yeah.
day, and
And
we've
he said he was
heard,
done. Yeah.
yeah, and we've heard one song off of Haunted Chocolatier and like seen 2 little reveals,
Yeah.
and I'm not convinced that he's finishing the game.
No, he literally was like, "No, I'm gonna stop working on Stardew so I can focus on Haunted Chocolatier." 6 months later, here's the biggest update
Here's
to
the
Stardew
biggest
Valley.
update.
ever. Here's 1.6. It's completely different.
my
Everything's new.
Oh man,
Yeah, dude. Fucking
so funny.
crazy. Oh man. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. If you want to let people know, Chris, where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me at the Nerd Lys, TheNerdLys on pretty much all platforms. Twitch mainly, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Bluesky now, Facebook,
Hell yeah.
all of those
Mhm.
things. You can find me there. I play games live on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, mostly indie horror and variety stuff. So come by, hang out, and see us there.
Nice. Yeah. Bluesky. It's the place to be.
Bluesky.
Jordan, take us away.
Bluesky.
Where can people find you?
Yes, I'm mostly active on Instagram and Threads at Cognitive Clips. I'm also on Bluesky. I'm trying to remember to use it more than I have been, but I am there if you want to find me. I'm on Twitch technically, but I usually just stream enough to get footage for the video essays that I do on YouTube. So
Yeah, behind the
um,
scenes.
yeah, you can find me at YouTube. Cognitive Clips is the name of the channel, but if you'd like to search by the little ampersand at the end of the URL, then it's cognitive hyphen clips. Somebody else had the just the smashed together words, and
Yeah.
I'm in the process of a lawsuit. I don't want to talk about it. NDAs and all that. So
God, it drives me nuts. Like my Mr. the Human, I'm MRTHE, human on everything except for Instagram where I have to put hyphens. But there's not, I cannot for the life of me find it and a Mr. the Human on Instagram. So I'm like, what are they keeping? Why are they keeping me from my fucking name?
what are they hiding?
It drives me nuts. But thank you guys so much for being here. This was so much fun.
It really was.
Maybe we'll do a halfway point, games of the year so far, like mini sometime in like June. That would be fun.
Yeah, it'd be
This
cute.
was a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't know when this is gonna come out. It might be like early December-ish, maybe late November, but it'll probably be somewhere coinciding with the actual game of the year. Worth noting, it's November 13th right now, so that was kind of our cutoff. So
14th,
if anything comes,
but yeah,
14th, yeah. Yeah. I guess if you're fucking crazy and you played the game today, I wouldn't put it past you, Jordan. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. If you guys liked this, if it was your first time here, please leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps the channel grow. Spotify is currently winning with much more reviews than Apple Podcasts. So if you're an Apple Podcast listener, step your game up.
Step in.
Yep. And if you're, a returning listener or you came here from Chris or Jordan, find somebody else, share it around, help the channel grow a little bit. We'll see where the game of the year will be next year. But if you really enjoyed this, let us know in the comments on Spotify or YouTube, wherever. Find us in the Discord, LFG, Leveling Friends group. We got that all in the description below. And then I'm remembering now that I have to do my socials because Jess isn't here. It's like I'm missing something right now. And it's my co-host. Yeah, we're on Threads, Instagram, and Bluesky as Short Long Pod. And then you can also find me on all those things at Mr. the Human. If you just search Mr. the Human, I'll come up. You'll see my big smiling bearded face. I'm on there. But yeah, that'll do it for us. We're looking forward to 2025. And don't forget to kidnap your friends.
Do it.
Put them in a bag. We should probably do them. Why is it like there's like no focus? What is happening to this thing? This thing is like this is acting a whole fool. I don't understand what's going on.
You look so crazy. I had to say.
Hold on a second.
Fantastic.
Why does it look like this?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh my god.
You just looked crazy, dude. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, now it works fine.
Blurry Chris is not real.
He can't hurt you. He can't hurt you.